welcome to a meeting of Brant County Council of October the 28th, 2025. Attendance has been taken. We're all here, which takes us to the second thing on the agenda, which is the land acknowledgement, and I believe Councillor Coleman has that for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we gather, we acknowledge that we meet on the lands and the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations, Six Nations of the Grand River, and the traditional territory of the Adirondack. We remind ourselves that the County of Brant is situated on lands that are full of rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We recognize the significance of their contributions to the past, present, and future of this land. As a county, we have a shared responsibility for the stewardship of the land on which we live and work, and a commitment to the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. We commit to continue learning, reflecting on our past, and working in allyship.
Thanks, Councillor Coleman. The third thing on our agenda is you have an agenda in front of you. I'm looking for approval of the agenda. Is there any additions? No. And I think it would be good. I know that there's some obvious choices to move things around so that people aren't here all night, but I would appreciate it if we could leave the agenda as it stands, if that's okay with everyone. Councillor McAlpine, did you have something?
Oh, I was just going to move the...
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Oakley, that the County of Brant Council agenda and addendum of October 28, 2025 be approved.
All those in favor of the agenda? Opposed? Carried. Delegations. First of all, declaration of pecuniary interest. Does anyone have one that they need to talk about now? If not, if one pops up, please let me be the first one to know. And we'll go right on to number 5, which is the delegations. And our first delegation is online. It's Mary Musson from the City of Brantford. She has the social services budget. Mary, whenever you're ready, please. Let's get it on the floor first. Sorry, just a minute, Mary. We got to get it on the floor. Councillor Pears and Councillor Howes, all those in favor? And I'm sorry, now we're ready for you now, Mary.
Wonderful. Good evening. Thank you. I'm Mary Musson, Commissioner of Community Services and Social Development for the City of Brantford. I'm very pleased to be here today to present the 2026 Shared Social Services Budget to Brant County Council. Joining me tonight are Judy Moore, Director of Finance for the City of Brantford, and Michelle Connor, Director of Community Strategies and Family Supports for the City of Brantford. The City of Brantford is designated by the Province of Ontario as the Consolidated Municipal Service Manager for the City of Brantford and the County of Brant. The City is the Service System Manager for the delivery of children's services in early years, is the Service Delivery Partner responsible for the delivery of Ontario Works programming, and is the Designated Service Manager for Housing and Homelessness Services in the County of Brant and the City of Brantford. The Shared Social Services Budget is apportioned between the City and the County on the basis of population. The population share has shifted slightly to be 72.1% City and 27.9% County. We will start with the 2026 operating budgets. Children's services in Ontario are under mounting financial pressures, particularly at the municipal level. In 2019, the province reduced the administrative funding to municipalities from 10% to 5% and simultaneously required municipalities to cost share the 5%. Previous to this, administrative funding was 100% provincially funded. Concurrently, the administrative responsibilities of service system managers has increased with the addition of the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare, or CWELC program in 2022. The Children's Services in Early Years Division is the local implementation lead of the CWELC program and also provides support and oversight to 24 licensed childcare providers, administers the provincial childcare fee subsidy program, facilitates special needs supports for children in childcare, and is responsible for the administration of early on and Indigenous-led programs. As of today, 2026 provincial funding allocations for children's services in early years are unknown. The 2026 budget projects a $189,698 increase to maintain mandated service delivery. This increase is driven by contractual wage and benefit increases, inflationary increases to administrative overhead costs, and reduced deferred unconditional provincial funding. The Family and Income Stability Division is responsible for Ontario Works program delivery in the County of Brant and in the City of Brantford. The local annual average Ontario Works caseload is the highest it has been in the past 10 years, having surpassed 2013 caseload levels in 2024. The average monthly caseload for Brantford Brant is being projected by the ministry to increase by 8.8% in 2025-26 and an additional 6.1% in 2026-27. However, a linear projection based on 2024 and 2025 actuals indicates that a 15% caseload increase can be expected, resulting in an average monthly caseload of 3,630 households by the fourth quarter of 2026. In September 2025, the city received information from the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services confirming that the provincial funding for Ontario Works service delivery for 2026 will be the same allocation amount as the 2025 program delivery funding envelope. The 2026 budget increase of $619,967 includes $278,547 in municipal contributions to increase staffing complement with up to 3 new full-time community resource navigators to support the increasing Ontario Works caseload. The remaining $341,420 budget increase is primarily driven by contractual wage and benefit increases and inflationary increases to administrative expenses. The housing budget encompasses the operating needs of the housing development, housing programs, and housing operations divisions. Since the provincial download of social housing to municipalities in 2001, local governments have struggled to sustain housing services on a property tax base that was never designed to fund them. The Housing Operations Division maintains over 1,300 community and affordable housing units in Brantford Brant. Since 2018, 207 additional housing units have been operationalized, increasing the municipality's responsibilities for asset upkeep, tenant health and safety, and housing quality assurance. All service managers are experiencing an annual funding decline from the Canada-Ontario Social Housing Agreement, with a full reduction by 2030 for the City of Brantford. Additionally, various provincial and federal funding streams are provisional and without long-term confirmed allocations. Simultaneously, legislative requirements, as well as administrative and reporting requirements to provincial and federal ministries, continue to increase in frequency and complexity. The 2026 budget increase of $379,164 includes the addition of 1 new full-time senior project manager and 1 new full-time maintenance servicer, totaling $266,527. The remaining $112,637 budget increase is primarily driven by contractual wage and benefit increases, inflationary increases to administrative costs, contracted services and overhead costs, and insurance and utilities. The Association of Municipalities of Ontario 2025 Homelessness Report, Municipalities Under Pressure, indicates that homelessness in rural Ontario has surged dramatically in recent years, growing by more than 150% since 2016, which is far outpacing the provincial average of 50%. Rural communities such as those in the County of Brant face a high prevalence of hidden homelessness, where individuals often live in unstable or temporary arrangements without accessing formal supports. Local point-in-time count data shows a continuing upward trend in homelessness in Brantford Brant, with a 56% increase from 2023 to 2024. The city's by-name list data shows that as of June 30th, 2025, 602 people were experiencing homelessness, with almost half meeting the definition of chronically homeless. This is a 63% increase in the number of known people experiencing homelessness in Brantford Brant since 2021. The 2026 budget increase of $57,612 in homelessness includes the annualization of the 2 full-time community initiatives coordinators responsible for encampment outreach that were approved in the 2025 budget, contractual wage and benefit increases, and inflationary increases for contracted homelessness services. The draft operating budget for shared social services represents an overall 6.49% base increase over the previous year. This includes the gross operating reduction of $275,000 that was circulated via memorandum to members of the Social Services Committee on October 17, 2025. With the city-county cost share, this translates into a 6.8% increase, or $366,962 for the county. Staff is also seeking consideration and approval of 2 additional budget investments that have not been included in the base budget. The Housing Stability Worker Pilot Program is currently funded through a reserve fund until March 31st, 2026, after which time, without an identified funding source, the program will end. This program has been critical in maintaining tenancies for households residing in city-owned and operated units in the county and the city. The annual cost per homeless individual is estimated at $50,000 to $70,000 per year. This includes costs for emergency shelter use and other homelessness programs, hospital visits, policing, incarceration, and crisis services. Maintaining a household's tenancy through the Housing Stability Worker Program is a cost-effective investment in housing stability and homelessness prevention. The transition of 4 contracted pilot program housing stability workers to permanent full-time is a $381,045 financial investment, representing an additional 1.99% increase. Staff is also recommending a homelessness service system enhancement through the addition of 2 community initiatives coordinators for housing outreach. These 2 additional staff would be utilized to expand current housing outreach services to include street outreach in the city of Brantford, focusing on the downtown core and other areas of high activity, and both encampment and street outreach in the county of Brant. The addition of 2 community initiative coordinators for housing outreach would total $201,629, representing an additional 1.05% increase. The additional budget investments being requested would increase the overall budget by $582,674, or 9.52%. The 2026 proposed capital budget of $7,521,350 includes 1 new affordable housing build, with the remainder focused on state of good repair. The new affordable housing build is proposed to be funded from a combination of anticipated grants, city-county reserves, and debt that will be serviced from rental revenues. The state of good repair projects will be funded from a combination of CMHC grants and city-county reserves. No additional funding from the city or county is needed to fund the 2026 capital budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Questions from council? Councillor Bell, you're first, or Councillor Miller, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Mary. Mary, if I'm looking at this, it looks like you're asking for a 9.92% increase from the county?
Yes, through the chair to you, Councillor. Yes, that is correct.
Specific questions. The 4 housing stability workers you said is coming, the money for those were coming from a reserve fund. Were they originally hired under a provincial or federal program?
Yes, they were originally hired under the federal program. It's the Reaching Home Federal Funding Program. The Reaching Home Federal Funding Program, we were anticipating a decline in funding. So for the 2025-26 fiscal year, they were being funded from a reserve. And after this time, it will be, the program will end if they are not included in the budget.
Okay, so it was federal money used to pay for these, and you find that there's such value that they bring that you feel it's worthy of the municipalities to fund those now in-house, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And then the 2 community initiatives coordinator, that's I think the I always call them the encampment workers, but those are the people that go to the encampments. Was that ever a federal or a provincial program initially?
Yes, that was initially also federally funded by the Reaching Home program, and that was brought into the municipal budget line in 2025.
And what we've had 2 so far. Do you feel that it's double the work then that we need 4?
That is correct. Right now, the 2 community initiative coordinators who do housing outreach focus all of their activities on encampment outreach in the city and in the county as needed. However, there is a great need for street outreach in the city, and we would like to expand services to ensure that there's consistent encampment and street outreach in the county.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Bell, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mary. Mary, thanks for the presentation. Very clear. Going back to the Housing Stability Worker Pilot Programme, and I asked you this question earlier, Is it your view that if we don't have these additional housing stability workers, that we will have such a degree of additional homelessness that at $50,000 to $70,000 annually per homeless individual, this additional 4 people is going to pay for itself quite quickly?
Yes, that is correct. What we have seen so far in the last approximately 2 years since we have been running this pilot program is that it has been extremely helpful in maintaining tenancies for people who are living in our housing units. So these are households that are living in affordable or rent geared to income units, and they are referred to the Housing Stability Worker Program to prevent evictions and to maintain their tenancies. For the people who have actively participated in the program, we've had a success rate of approximately 99%. In comparison, when a person or a household enters homelessness, the costs increase dramatically right away to anywhere from $100 to $115 per day just to place them into a motel. If they qualify for emergency sheltering, if they're a single adult, then that's already $85 per day. And that's not counting all the other services that they will touch, such as policing, the hospital system, and crisis and emergency, potentially the criminal justice system. So this is a good investment by the municipalities.
Yeah, thank you, Mary.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, thank you, Mary. We have it on the floor. We have a seconder. I'm going to call the vote just to receive his information. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Thank you, Mary. Takes us to number 5.2 on the agenda, which is Rita Marie Hadley and Scott Lyons representing Lansdowne Children's Center. And they have a story to tell us. I hope it has a good ending. Who has this? Does someone, council, do I need a, you have it? No? Okay. So Councillor Oakley, I need a seconder. Councillor Chambers to get on the floor. Thank you.
Can I advance it from here? Okay, thank you. I'm Rita Marie Hadley, Executive Director of Lansdowne Children's Center, and grateful to be in front of you tonight along with Scott Lyons, past board chair and chair of our capital campaign. And we're back visiting you, but I note that we are 2 people speaking. We are channeling the voices of many who are in the room and online from our organization. We'd actually even have more, but there's a family engagement activity at Lansdowne, and they won out over them coming to join here tonight. We are delighted to also be complementing the county's 10-year community services strategic plan, noting that you've developed that. Since we were here 11 months ago, we have been very busy, and we are also noting that this is generational work we're bringing to you. We have the chance to support generations of many families and kids in this community from birth until they're leaving school. And as a reminder for who's a Lansdowne kid, anyone who comes to our doors might need support around their physical, communication, or developmental challenges, and that could be something that's acquired, a genetic condition, a congenital malformation, neuromuscular, neurodevelopmental, physical to communications, but at the heart, they're all individual children. They're all our community's children. And the role that Lansdowne plays is supporting through rehabilitation, respite, and recreation so the kids can reach their potential. We're blessed with very skilled practitioners who are members of our community, and they are ensuring that families can see the possibility of the future for their children. And I know that you were reminded of this when we were here last year, so this is just a quick recap to position this community infrastructure as we talk to you, noting that around 1 in 5 Brant kids need Lansdowne, between the approximately 900 who either receive services or are waiting for them each year, and around 40 of the current Lansdowne employees are County of Brant residents in our employee personnel totaling around 250. Our story, like the county, has been one of growth, and we know as you're planning the infrastructure for the growth, it's also essential that we can match in terms of making sure that kids receive the services in this community. We've shared for you the growth over time, serving around 4,000 kids a year, but the concern of those on the wait list is also what heightens the importance of our move to this new build that we find ourselves in right now.
And you'll recall from our update last year, the exciting time in January 2024 when Michael Parson, Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, visited on-site in Lansdowne and said that the province would commit to building us a new children's treatment center here in Brantford and address something that has really been decades in the coming, and so we're very excited for that, and that is what brings us here today. Since we were here last, you'll recall our ask for the budget a year ago, which was deferred to this year and brings us here again. Our progress since then, we have purchased and closed on a property to build a new building on. It will be a 3-story building that we are just finalizing some of the design of, but obviously all modern and much more accessible, ground level entry, lots of green space, the addition of a therapy pool as well. This will be about 4 times larger than the existing Lansdowne site. That's how far behind we are in the size and the capacity that we need to serve our kids and all the growth that we have seen over this time. Obviously more parking, updated infrastructure and better. This site is right next to, I know some of you were actually on site this summer when we made this announcement. This is a property right next door to where our existing building is on Mount Pleasant, although it will have a municipal address of Colburn Street, but it is that vacant corner that used to be the Stelco property. And so there are a few renderings. Again, we are just going through the due diligence to work this build out to fit that properly appropriately. And as we finalize those designs, there's a shot from the rear and the aerial.
As Scott mentioned, we were pleased to be able to keep you abreast of where we were last December, because certainly you've been on the journey with us when we were looking for ministerial approval, when we've been on the journey of trying to find a location. And so the fact that we have in the last year been able to identify the location and proceed with the due diligence around the suitability of the land gives us great hope. The zoning bylaw amendment application is approved and circulated with a January date for appearing before Brant Planning Committee. And with that comes the next step of our site plan approval. This brings us in readiness, as Scott said, for the final design phase and targeting when we would have a building permit with potential construction beginning 2027, based upon those scheduled items. And so while it feels imminent, it's been a long time, and we know in the life of a child and of the parents who put their faith in us that we will help to advance their kids' services, we know that we don't want to add to any delay. The design of the new building and the fact that it has grown in its size and the ability to have more purpose-built group therapy places is what gives us confidence around how we will be able to work through our wait list and provide more timely services. And also the improved customer experience is very, very important, the safety of our kids. And having that as a beacon within our community, serving Brantford, Brant, and beyond, is something that I think we can all be proud of and are looking forward to with your support.
So we are here to respectfully renew our ask. This will be about a $100 million build with the province, and as I know you're all familiar with the province's expectation of a minimum of the FF&E furnishings, fixtures, and equipment to be provided, to be paid for locally through municipality, through community fundraising campaign. So as we look to launch this campaign, we know that our local commitment is going to be somewhere probably $10 to $12 million. And so as we approach both the county and the city, we are hoping for an $800,000 commitment from the County of Brant, spread as a pledge over 3 or 4 years. And I mean, even listening tonight, we fully recognize the challenges that are coming up in the budgets recently. That's why we were deferred last year to this year. And again, I know there are a lot of departments where you're in double-digit increases. So whether that is a 3 or 4, we would like to be able to budget 800,000. It's multiple year, such that by the time we are putting the FF&E in, if that is spread out too far, then we are into financing and that sort of thing for all of it. So certainly 3 or 4, if that needs to be spread to 5, I mean, we're certainly not going to be disappointed by it, but we'll leave it with you at that and open it for any questions if there are, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. I'm glad that we did defer it, because like the hospital build, until we sort of have a location and we can show people what things are going to look like, it's hard to raise money and it's hard to give money just to a big empty hole. And now you've showed us renderings, you've given us timelines, and I hope that council will see the difference between this year and last year. So with that, I'm going to open to questions for council. Councillor Pierce, you're first.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you, and thanks to you folks for what you do. A couple questions on, I guess it's where it says serving Brant kids, employing Brant residents, where it states 1 in 5 Brant kids need Lansdowne, 900 county kids served and or on the wait list per year. Are you able to tell me, of that 900, how many are actually served and how many are on the wait list?
That number right in front of me, I can certainly follow up. The movement through is one of first being assessed for treatment and then may wait for service initiation. So it's a combination of all of that. We also have really important function, it's called our Smart Start Hub, so that we have some navigation for families and parents, and the euphemism is while you wait, but we want to make sure that families have resources right away. So it's a bit of a blurry line. I'm not trying to be unresponsive and not telling you that how that breaks down, but it is a really strong effort to make sure that as soon as a family identifies they have a need or a query, that we can start with some tools right away. So in some assessments, people are getting served right away.
Okay, follow up. Good. So when you say some are waiting for service initiation, is that due to either services you don't have or services that you do have that are full?
Oh, no, they'd all be services that we have that we can't provide immediately, yeah. If they were services that we don't have, we would immediately give them a connection so they can get them from the right provider, like a warm handoff.
Right, okay. And then the next slide there, you talk about growth over time. It's incredible how much the numbers have gone up, and it's disappointing in the sense that you've got about 70% more on a waiting list.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that, you know, it's not the fact of not having the staff to do, is it space? Like,
Actually,
why is there so many on the waiting list?
There are a number of reasons. During COVID, we've had a lot of in-province transfers, and we honor a place on a wait list from a child anywhere in Ontario, because we're a system, so we can track people who started their service journey, let's say, in the Ottawa Valley, and they've moved here. And so there's been increasing demand with population growth, people moving in, and yes, we compete for staff, so there is a national and international shortage of some of the regulated health professionals who provide our services. So we're competing. We compete with hospitals, with private clinics, with other provinces and other countries. So it's a combination of staff shortages that we work to fill as quickly as possible, and the right amount of space and the right kind of space. So it's both the human and physical resource limitation.
Okay, thank you for that. One last one, Mr. Mayor, if I could. So then on the next slide, it says, a larger state-of-the-art Lansdowne Children's Center will have the ability to serve more children and youth in Brantford and surrounding areas.
Yes.
So if we take the number of, we'll say 3,900 right now that you serve, with this new facility, do you think we could double that? What's your thoughts on that?
I know that we don't have the right algorithm to tell you that exact amount by which it would change, because each child who comes through our door is a unique individual. They'll get assessed, and then depending upon either a diagnosis or their functional needs, they'll be, shall we say, prescribed a course of treatment, a care path. And depending on whether that condition and that individual child is best served in group therapy, we can probably serve them better in a building that's designed with good group therapy spaces, as opposed to having to wait when we don't have those spaces right now. So for certain kids with certain conditions, we could see the volume increasing for those.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the delegation, Councillor Pierce took a number of my questions, but I do still have a few. So in regards to, we're not able to accurately project how much we're going to be able to reduce the wait list based on the capital investment. Now, recognizing that, if I'm understanding correctly, the province has indicated that they're going to be investing in the capital project here. Is that coming with additional operational funding as part of that, or will that be an advocacy issue after this building is complete? Because it seems like one of the constraints would be staffing, so having a big building and not enough staff doesn't set the building up for success either. So I'm just curious whether or not there's an indication that additional funding will come when this capital project is completed, or whether or not that'll be an advocacy issue at that point.
Post-construction operating plans are separate. There's not a built-in commitment on that. However, our ministry is working with university colleges as well as with the Ministry of Health around the health human resource constraints. And so that funds don't have to go into creative recruitment efforts from the organization, but as a provincial initiative of supporting the regulated health professionals to be where we are. So it's an indirect answer to yours. We don't have an immediate formula adjustment based upon our square footage changes. However, we know that a purpose-built structure, there are some efficiencies that will accrue from working in a retrofitted 1960s cinder block school that's been adapted. So those are some of the opportunities, as well as looking at sustainability initiatives that could affect how well we use resources, like power, et cetera.
Okay, so essentially the answer is no additional funding promised, but we're hoping to find additional resources for staffing through efficiencies and hopefully some government programs to increase the amount of staffing resources available.
That, as well as working with our ministry that has also approved 2 other new builds that go through the similar initiative.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good to see you again today. 2 questions, and one just for information. We talk a lot about Brantford and the county, but you also serve Haldeman and Norfolk.
That's correct.
Are you making similar presentations to their councils?
We have a different value proposition for other parts of the geography because of the fact that the largest portion of our services, because of the programs we provide, are in Brantford and Brant County. In Haldeman and Norfolk, we also provide the rehab services, but there's other agencies that provide some of the other programming that Lansdowne is contracted to provide in Brant. So it's a different presence and a different combination of services. And because of the absence of public transit system. The necessity in Haldimand and Norfolk is for more localized, smaller sites. And so some of those families in Haldimand and Norfolk will have all of their needs met at the existing sites in Simcoe, Dunnville, and Caledonia. But for some specialized services, we'll need to travel for this. So there is not the same expectation of families being served at this redeveloped site if they are in Haldimand and Norfolk.
So the redeveloped site will really focus on the children of the city and the county?
That's correct.
Another question, you have an existing site.
Yes, yeah.
Could you explain what you're
Yes.
going to do with it and how that would affect your economics?
The intent is that the proceeds of the sale of our existing site will go towards what our required contribution is towards the overall price.
Thank you.
Councillor Miller.
That is a good segue to my question, and I might have missed the answer during your presentation. The hospital, the province wants us to kick in 10% locally. What does the province want locally? I think, Scott, you mentioned fixtures and furniture. Locally, we've got to raise the money for that, and how much of the building itself?
It's the same. It's that FF&E is within, so it's the 10%. It's a similar formula for provincial builds. So we're after them now to negotiate a little bit harder number as this goes on and it's updated. And by the time, this build is completed, which is on the province's tab, but if, for instance, this happens to be a $150 million build by the time it gets completed due to, construction cost escalation and everything, but it doesn't impact really the FF&E and what we're doing locally. We want that number fixed so that we don't have any surprises later, say, well, we told you to only raise this much, but now because the cost of construction went up, we expect you to raise more. So we're under that. But our local commitment will be for 10%, which we would expect to get the harder number. That's going to fall within 10 or 12 million.
And then furnishings on
And
top.
that is what pays for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And playground, all of those types of things.
It's a good chunk of change. Are you guys allowed to borrow, or how does that work? Are you allowed to issue debentures or anything, or just wondering?
We do have that provision. Again, there would be cost attached to that, but it's not been a model we've been pursuing.
Yeah, that would be a very, very worst case scenario because of the cost of service, any of that kind of.
Yeah, debentures tend to add to the overall budget. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bell?
Yes, one more question, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Rita Marie, we talked a little bit about project management. You convinced me that you're ahead of the game on this one. Could you just share what you're doing to make sure that we're properly project managing this project, given that we've had some difficult experiences elsewhere?
We're grateful that fairly soon after our ministry approved our project, our first procurement was for project management services. And we are being guided by that because our expertise is in running a rehab center for kids and supporting their development, and our governors, their stewardship of the resources also rely upon us managing the risk, which does mean we need to be led by, we currently have Collier's project management services, and our ministry meets with us monthly with a capital team and operations team, and our project management team has also been the ones leading and overseeing our procurement of due diligence consultants and making sure that all of our procurements are in line with the broader public sector procurement guidelines, because we know that this is a very big project. It's the largest initiative in our organization's history, and our ministry is also very vested in making sure that with a large amount of their resources going into it, that we're supported. That they have also approved additional project staff internally that complement the project management that we've hired.
Just to follow up on that briefly, because I'm also on the capital steering committee for your confidence in that. As we go through this and work through with due diligence, and we have another firm that is helping us prepare, for instance, the zoning applications and everything that we need to walk through with the city. And as Colliers walks us through what this timeline looks like. There as well, you will get your act together for your zoning application. You'll submit that. They will say, well, no, you need to fine tune it and go, and you'll have to resubmit that 2 or 3 times. And our submission was already approved this past week with the city on the first go round through it. So it's the people that we have been fortunate enough to have engaged in this through the expertise of companies that have built similar children's treatment centers in other cities have come on board and are really doing a great job for us with that.
So in fact, you can see the municipal zoning bylaw signs soon on our fence, noting for all the public, if they weren't already aware of the happy dance we did in August when we put the coming soon signs.
Any other questions for Scott or Rita Marie? Lansdowne's been a part of my life for a very long time. I've chaired their Christmas party more than a few times. And I see a lot of, well, I see Santa Claus there too. But I would invite anyone on council, if you want to go down and see what they do, not to look at their building too closely because they're trying to get out of that one, but see what they do and see the feeling of the place. And I think you'll see that the investment is very sound and very worthwhile. So with that being said, I have it on the floor and I have a seconder. I would like to see a motion to receive his information and send to budget. Councillor Oakley?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question actually to our staff in the process here. This is going to be dealt with at the long-term financial meeting on December 4th? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. 5.3 on the agenda, that's Tim from Noisemakers, and he's representing Drinks Fest. Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hello, everybody. I feel like normally when I'm in this room speaking to everybody, we have stories of storms and floods. No locusts yet, but I also wanted to tell hopefully a positive story tonight. Let everybody know how our event went this year, what we're looking to do next year to work closer with everybody in this room and the community as well. My name is Tim Desley. I run a company called Noisemaker Presents. We are an artist management and festival and concert promotion company. The company was founded here in Paris in 2015. We're now based in Hamilton, Ontario. I'm here tonight to discuss Paris Drinks Fest. We just had our 6th version of the festival on August 15 and 16 of this year. I appreciate that I've had the chance to speak to a number of the councillors about the event, what we're looking to do next year, and we're here tonight before everybody to request a letter of municipal significance, which allows us to begin our rental process and our liquor license process with the AGCO. In 2015, we did have our biggest festival, our biggest version of Paris Drinks Fest to date. We had over 4,200 people attend over the course of the weekend, which was fantastic. We had great weather, excellent bands, had a great time. And for the first time, we had over 1,950 attendees from within County of Brant, which means almost 5% of the County of Brant attended our event over the course of the weekend, which was really nice to see. We understand the importance of supporting the local businesses, especially during what's happening economically, what's happening to the south with the neighbors, what's happening with the Big Dig. And through our team report, we did get a report back that the festival generated around $487,000 in economic impact to the immediate region around the County of Brant and Paris. I know a lot of this is really about where we're going to be holding the festival. We were in Lions Park for the first 4 years that we held the event, and we moved 2 years ago to Salaps. Salaps has been an excellent location for us, and we're hoping to return there. Salaps and the community center building that we have access to offers infrastructure, accessibility, and safety options that, from what we've seen, no other park in the County of Brant is able to provide. We visited and toured most of these parks when we've been looking for alternate locations for our event over the last couple of years. in 2024 and 2023 because of flooding. And we've been very happy in our new location. It offers a lot of opportunity for medical staff, our third-party security, off-duty paid OPP officers that we have on site during the event to help ensure the safety of all the attendees. We're very lucky to work closely with county staff and fire to ensure that the event met all safety requirements, which we just went back and reviewed what we had at Lions Park, and we just don't have the same kind of ingress, egress, and emergency opportunities and access in those locations. And it was actually noticed, or actually recommended to us by County of Brant staff that we moved to Sillaps a couple years ago, and we're grateful that they did. Without the support of council through our letter of municipal significance, we've been reviewing alternate locations again and are feeling like Sillaps at the current time is the only park available in the County of Brant that would actually work for an event of this size and what we're hoping to do. Sillaps also provides a lot more opportunities for accessibility to attendees that we haven't been able to identify in other parks and that we just didn't have in Lions Park in the past. In 2024, last year, County of Brant Council presented our company with a certificate of recognition and celebration of the accessibility improvements we have taken at events, things like Paris Drinks Fest and the concerts that we put on in Paris year round. Paris Fairgrounds are a recurrent recommendation to us as a suitable location for this event, and I do agree that the fairgrounds would be a great opportunity for us. We did send a rental request to them in 2023 when we were looking for a new location. And because of their liquor license policies, the board voted that we wouldn't be able to proceed with a rental there. We've reached out to the fairgrounds again this year to see if we can restart that conversation and haven't received a response from them. So we're still hoping that Sillaps will be the best opportunity for us. I do want to address the concerns around alcohol at our event. It is now jokingly becoming a conversation that Paris Drinks Fest was probably not the best name for this event. But we've put a lot of money and effort into the brand and we're happy with it. But I do want to address some of the points that we've taken around that in the past couple of years. There's a lot more to what we do at Paris Drinks Fest besides alcohol and people coming from out of town or in town to drink. Food sales make up over 25% of all food and beverages sold on site. We've added a lot more non-alcoholic options to the event in the last couple of years. And in the attendee summary that we sent to everybody who came this year, from the responses we got back, 27% of attendees said that their decision to attend again next year is actually based off the live music, not who's going to be serving there and what they can consume on site. As a note, 59% of people, besides the 27%, responded that they were planning to attend again in 2026, regardless of the music or vendor lineup. We do also take a lot of steps to ensure that attendees are not overserved at this event. All of our servers must have their Smart Serve certifications, which are checked by County of Brant staff prior to the start of the event before we can open the doors. We do hire private security to monitor attendees and service at the event. And this past August, we had paid off-duty OPP officers posted at the exit at the end of each night to ensure that attendees left safely and without any issue. Even with our record attendance this year, we had 0 ejections, we had 0 incidents, we had 0 reported intoxications on site from security, servers, and OPP. We do go through a process like every other event that's held within the County of Brant. We work very closely with County of Brant staff to go through their special event advisory team process, which includes things like noise bylaw exemptions, third-party security and OPP, a certificate of insurance naming the County of Brant as additional insured, Grand Area Public Health Unit inspections of all food vendors on site, park rental and special event permits, our liquor licenses, fire evacuation plans, parking, and again, the Smart Serve certifications. So really what we're trying to do as we continue to grow this event in Paris and in the County of Brant is just reduce any inconvenience that we're providing to any neighbors who oppose what we're doing in Sillaps. We took a number of actions over the past couple of years, definitely last year when we moved to Sillaps rather late in the season because of, again, flooding in Lions Park. But we took the same approach this year where we delivered letters to everybody in the community around Syllabs to let them know, this is what we're doing, this is what we're here for, this is our email, this is a phone number you can reach us at anytime during the event. We use an app that allows one phone number to actually ring on all of our event leads' phones. And during the event, we didn't get a single call from anybody in the neighborhood with that number or emails that there were issues happening on site. We started this event in 2018 really to create a weekend of live music, to support local businesses, to provide a spotlight on local makers. That includes food trucks and artists and suppliers and staff on hand, trying to do as much as we can to support local. And even though we're now based in Hamilton, that's still our first approach. And we have a number of great partners that we are lucky enough to work with within the event. Over the last little while, we've spoken to a number of them just to get an idea of their thoughts on the event, what our event actually does to support local businesses. And if I could, I'd like to just read a couple of those examples here. Paris Beer have been great partners in our festival since we launched in 2018, and they've been a vendor every year since then. We asked them whether the restaurant and brewery at Wincey Mills were busier or less busy than usual during Paris Drinks Fest this year. And their response from Jennifer at Paris Beer Co. was, "We're definitely busier than normal over the August 15-16 weekend. We consistently see a noticeable lift in traffic whenever Paris Drinks Fest is on. The event brings a great energy to town, and we see lots of guests who make a point to stop in before or after attending. From our perspective, the festival adds real value to the local business community. It draws visitors, creates buzz around Paris, and showcases the area as a fun and vibrant destination. We'd love to continue to see it happen at Syllabs." Jen Howell from Howell Road was interviewed by the Brent Beacon, and in that she said, "We've been at Paris Drinks Fest every year, and we always have a good time. Because we're so local, we don't do a ton of festivals because we're obviously busy at the farm, so this is one of the only big events we do. It's nice being one of the local vendors here because we get to see and meet so many customers. Sometimes they've never heard of us, and we get to share we're actually located 10 minutes down the road, so they get to learn more about us. And we get to see a lot of customers from the farm out in a social atmosphere. It's a really great way for us to connect with everyone. We work closely with the Optimist Club, who are located beside Syllabs. They're not a vendor or they don't participate directly in the event, but each year since we moved to Syllabs, we donate any empty cans and bottles from the event to them. Andrea Marsh from the Optimist Club of Paris said, "These funds are much appreciated, and it means that the Optimist Club can organize more activities for the youth in Paris. The empty cans and bottles we donated this year generated $753 in funds for the Optimist Club." And one last quote that I'd love to read is from Child and Family Services of the Grand Erie Foundation. They were a vendor for the first time at Paris Drinks Fest this year, and they were selling non-alcoholic lemonade, raising money for their organization. Lori Gauthier is the donor relations specialist, and about the event she had to say, "We thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to participate as a vendor for the 2025 Paris Drinks Fest. The opportunity to fundraise for our lemonade campaign and ensure that more kids have the opportunity to attend life-enriching and resiliency-building summer experiences is so exceptional and speaks to the overall feel and vibe of the event as a whole. The whole event was well organized, the music was delightful, and the event goers were all well behaved. Just a general great vibe all around. I spoke with many concert goers who had driven many hours to see some of the acts and stayed in local hotels to make a whole week out of their stay." I've got a lot more stats, which I'd be more than happy to share with council and with anybody else about local results, survey results that we sent to our over 4,000 attendees this year, which are all very well received. But I did want to take a couple minutes and just thank everybody for the support we've had with the event and bringing it to Paris for the past 6 years. And we're hoping that with this information, we're able to continue to work together with the community to bring it back next year at Syllabs.
Thank you. First of all, I need to get it on the floor. I need someone to make the motion. Councillor Coleman and Councillor Pierce. And then Councillor Pierce, you want to speak to it?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. Sorry we couldn't hook up Tim on the phone, but I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, let me say that, I was able to take in some of the music from the weekend, which was, it was good, so that's fine. But my question is, and I've heard from several people, I guess, whether the notices you send out or the emails that you send out afterwards, I had several people tell me that, oh, it's gonna be at Sillaps again next year. And I said, well, what are you talking about? They said, oh, we got an email saying it's gonna be at Sillaps. So I'm curious as to why emails would be sent out saying that it's gonna be at Sillaps when you haven't even come here to talk to us to see if it's gonna be at Sillaps.
Sure. After the event, we always send a save the date. It helps put the date in people's mind, lets them know that we're coming back next year, we're proceeding with plans to create the event and bring it back to Paris. The emails that we sent out with people were trying to raise some capital for the event to have advanced ticket sales for next year. In the 6 years that we've done this event, the first 5 years were all profitable, and this was the first year that we were not. I think there's a number of factors that led to that. Some of them have to do with the live event space and how things are changing, events within the area that are getting more competitive, and almost all expenses rising and increasing. So sending out that information, which also included a link to discounted advance tickets for 2026, were in an effort to try and make up for some of the financial loss that we had on the event this year while trying to move forward with next year.
At Sillaps.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Counselor Howe is your next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of comments, which then I'll turn into a question. So, Tim, thanks for giving us all the information. There's no doubt in my mind that you run a good event.
Thank you.
You're very organized, you always have been, and then you put together a good event. Where I stumble on this is whether the Sillaps property is a good choice for a music festival. Because if it is, then there should be a music festival there once a month. But that wouldn't work, right? People would go crazy. So if it's not good for once a month for everybody, then why is it good for you? And that's not my question to you, that's a rhetorical question. So that's where I stumble on this, is I'm not convinced that that's a great property for a music festival. At least not one that goes on till 11 o'clock at night. I do believe that it's time for you to graduate to the fairgrounds. I'm still hopeful that there's an opportunity for you to connect with them. You haven't heard a no for next year from them. You've tried to initiate a discussion, you haven't heard back. So I'm struggling with this, you know that, we've talked. I've also mentioned to Tim, to say this publicly, that if he had a letter of support from the BIA saying that they as an organization love the fact that there's a music festival happening on the other side of the river and it's great for all their businesses, that would help. But my question is, tonight, like, do you need a decision tonight? And is the decision that it's Sillaps and the decision that it's a municipally significant event, are they all rolled into one? Is it, or like, can we call you a municipal significant event with location to be determined? Or does it have to be all rolled into one?
The letter of municipal significance is the first domino for us in a much bigger process. It allows us to apply for our liquor license, which we need to run the event, which we need to apply to the County of Brant for a location rental, which we need to have attached to a location, which we also need, the location, we also need to start booking artists. For this, we need to have a location in place so we can have our insurance in place as we proceed with planning. The live event space has gone from a time when we could plan this event in about 6 months to a time where it's taking us closer to probably 14 to 16 months to plan a successful event without knowing where we're going to put it. We're currently about 4 months behind where we should be. We do have some plans in place internally about how we can proceed if hopefully things go well tonight and we have an approval for this letter of municipal significance attached to a site. But we can't proceed with the majority of our planning efforts if we don't know where to put this.
Councillor Oakley, and then Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the delegation, I have a few questions here. First of all, do you know roughly sort of what the decibel level of your event is? Or do you plan for a certain decibel level?
We do, and we work closely with our production team that we have had in place for the past 6 years at this event to ensure that it's at the least inconvenient as possible while still providing a high-quality event. In working with county staff and speaking to a number of colleagues from around the province, we were able to find out roughly what industry standard decibel levels would be. 120 to 130 tends to be industry standard for larger events. We were monitoring ours from a couple locations at the festival throughout the site. We had a decibel reader at front of house, which is where the sound console is, which is where everything is mixed from. And we also know that the sound readings were also being taken, and our sound team were out at the property line by 80 Willow to keep those, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it was under 100 decibels at all time. And we were reading about 96 to 98 from front of house, meaning it dissipated by the time it got to the back of the property as well. So we took a couple, I believe I discussed this last time I was here as well, but we did take a couple steps with our production company where for an event of this size, you hang the speakers off the side of the stage. Those speakers are designed to have what's called as much throw as possible. So they're presenting clear sound to the furthest point that they can. Because of the neighborhood that we're in and trying to respect the neighborhood, respect the neighbors, but again, still provide a high quality event, we invested in a rental with them, which were more speakers that were actually smaller. They don't go as far, but they still present a high quality sound in a smaller area. So we worked with them to monitor it through the events. We worked with them and County of Brant to make sure we were within the requirements of our noise exemption and that policy through the permit, to try and keep noise levels as low as we can.
Okay. I wanted to sort of tie that together with, from what research I was doing and reading, like a destruction derby roughly runs around the same decibel levels, and your location there is equidistant to the closest homes as would be the fairgrounds and where they run their derby event to the closest homes there. So I just want to highlight that sort of comparator there. Furthermore, do you in sort of the local area, you know, within 50 kilometers of here, are there any other sort of facilities that you would sort of correlate this specific facility to that also run similar music events that are municipally run?
As in other public parks where simply, yeah. There's a few locations within the area that are quite similar to what we do. Friends of ours run an event called Meadows Festival, which is in Fergus, Ontario. That's also in a green space beside a community center within a residential neighborhood. They also run over 2 days, have events that in a music lineup that goes to 11 o'clock. I believe they have a bigger stage than us, and it would be a louder event. Because Beer in Hamilton is in a residential park on Pier 4 at the waterfront, surrounded by residents. There's a couple of events at Gage Park in Hamilton, which is surrounded on 3 sides by residents. The one in Brantford, which changes its name all the time and is called Welcome Home, Call Home, I believe. The current one in Brantford, also in a residential neighborhood. So there are quite a number of events of similar sizes, of similar or louder production within residential neighborhoods within 50 or less kilometers from here.
So it'd be fair to say it's well precedented. Yes. And then I just want to make one comment, just sort of in regards to Councillor Howe's comment in regards to you coming this evening. I just wanted to sort of state that I did, Tim and I talked not long after the event, just sort of on sort of next steps. It was my recommendation to come to council and ask early. And we had a bit of a conversation about this where When I was a teenager, one of the things I remember is, and I know it's a bit of, bad juju in the space, but the Hockey Fest cancellation. And my understanding is similar thing, they came, only a couple months out, but because of the long-term planning aspect that you mentioned, that caused that event to fail. So it was my feeling, having had conversations with other members of council, some of the community, that'd be best to have this discussed at council early, so that if our direction ultimately is that we don't support it at SILAPS, that the organizers have time to deal with that aspect, whether it's moving the event forward somewhere else, whether it's canceling the event, whatever that comes out of. But rather than having that conversation when I believe in the past, the letter of municipal significance come maybe March, February, that would have significant implications, I think, both for the community, for the event organizers, and for us in terms of the appropriateness of making that request then. So that was why I gave that advice. So just want to make that comment out there.
Okay, Councillor Bell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few comments, and I'm not sure whether this is the right time to make them. Maybe when Councillor Oakley brings forward a motion in item 11, but if you want me to do it now, I could equally do it now.
I think you should do it now.
Okay, thank you. So I've had the chance to speak to Tim, and he knows exactly where I'm going to come from, so it won't be a surprise for him. And I do agree that Paris Drinks Fest has been a success for those people attending and for the organisers. I don't think it's necessarily been a success for the wider community in which the event is being held. And like Councillor Howes, I'm not sure SILAPS is the right location. But I want to come at it from a different perspective. My fellow councillors know that I sit on the Board of Health. The County of Brant is one of 4 municipalities that actually funds the Board of Health, funds the Grand Erie Public Health Unit. And the mission of the Grand Erie Public Health Unit is to provide health promotion, protection, disease prevention programs and services to help all members of the community achieve and maintain optimal health. We actually contribute $1.25 million a year to improve and maintain the health of our community. Recent analysis by the Health Unit has indicated that the community that we serve exceed the recommended guidelines for low alcohol consumption to a greater degree than the average in the province. And I believe that it is inappropriate, and I think it sends mixed messages for a funding partner of a health unit to provide municipal support to an event whose primary purpose is the consumption of alcohol. And likewise, I believe that we shouldn't offer our municipal facilities to support a for-profit event whose purpose runs counter to clear public health guidelines. So that's my pitch from a health perspective. And I think in many respects, I certainly feel conflicted. I think we as contributors, i.e. the county, as contributors to the health unit, should feel equally conflicted to support an event that runs counter to public health guidelines. I do think there's an issue with respect to the location more specifically. The users of the arena, the users of the skate park, their input in this should not be overlooked or downplayed. They're all inconvenienced, and particularly the residents around the SILAPS area. You may not have got emails, Tim, but I certainly got emails. I know my colleagues got emails. The residents of 80 Willow Street, and particularly those that looked out onto a row of 30 porta potties, they didn't choose to live there in the anticipation of a major festival being held there in their backyard, with noise, inconvenience, and a loss of private enjoyment of their living space. On the contrary, when people moved to the north end of town, around the fairgrounds were there long before we ever developed. Activities in the fairgrounds predate any residential development there. People moved to the north end understanding that every year there would be a big fair, lots of noise. And indeed, the fairgrounds is used for many other purposes, including last year a very big concert. I think, Councillor Pearce, you were involved with that. So I think we need to be fair to the people who live in that area and not impose upon them something that they never expected to have. As regards alcohol consumption, I think it's just a personal choice. I understand the popularity of the event. I have no objection to the event per se. I can't put a municipal stamp on it. I can't see it being held in municipal property. The fairgrounds is a perfectly great place to have it. They have a history of running these kind of events there. And equally, I think you can actually increase your audience if you use the fairgrounds. There's a much bigger space there. So any economic downside of having to pay a bigger rent than you would pay to the county, I think you can claim or hopefully get back through a larger attendance there. So when it comes to requesting support for continued use of SLAPs, I cannot give it. I cannot give any support to any other municipal venue, and I object in principle to giving municipal support to an event where the primary purpose runs counter to clear public health guidelines. That's my story, Mr. Mayor. I don't know when it comes to a vote, but I will not support what Councillor Oakley is going to bring up later.
Councillor Miller.
Are we debating the effects on health of alcohol? A little bit never hurts. I would always say that. I just wanted to ask Tim, there's a suggestion, maybe in the near future, Gurney Sports Park. Is that something that you guys think would work out well for your organization?
Absolutely. And what we're hoping is that until there is another park that will work within the county of Brant that will be viable and safe and a realistic opportunity for us to move the event there and grow within it, which was something we would hope to do, that we can continue to use SLAPs. But I definitely think, from what I've heard about the plans for that park, the location of it, the size of it, and mentioning to county staff that we'd be more than happy to consult and advise and offer any direction on what it could do to welcome more events of this size, we'd be happy to. But at this point, there's no public park or private location that we have access to that could work for this event.
Okay, so in the motion coming up, then it's just getting through the short term, the next 2 or 3 years, and whether that, deciding where that goes. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Councillor Oakley, you have something to bring forward, or?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I originally tied it under 11.1, but we can just discuss it here if that works.
Oh, it's under 11.1?
Yep.
So right now, let's just receive this as information, and it's on the floor. It has a seconder. All those in favor to receive as information? Opposed and carried. Thanks, Tim. Okay, we have someone coming from Firma Energy. I wouldn't even attempt your names. You've had a long day here. I can hardly see your name. If you can just state your name, please, and who you represent for council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council, for having us here today. My name is Bogdan Danu, and I am here representing Firma Energy. With me is Aaron Weigel from Interjex Renewables. Firma Energy is an Ontario-based solar and energy storage developer specializing in early stage development, including siting, land acquisitions, community engagement, and permitting. We produce shovel-ready projects in partnership with experienced utilities to own, operate, and maintain long-term. And I'll let Aaron speak to Interjex.
Yes, sure. As Bogdan said, Aaron Weigel, glad to be here tonight. Interjex is a Canadian company, been in operation for about 35 years. Started with hydro here in Canada. Actually bought some properties in the United States as well as in France and Chile. So we partner with developers like Firma for early stage developments like this, doing only green energy. So that's hydro, wind, solar, and batteries now as part of the grid. So we have a long history of working here. Ontario is a priority for us, I would say, right now. And so looking forward to this conversation and talking about this potential battery project this evening.
Our, our commitment today is to make sure that we work with council and stakeholders to establish the best possible project for the community and the province of Ontario. The project that we're looking to present here today is currently being acquired by Interjex Renewables, who will be the long-term owner-operator of the facility. MCBC, the Mississaugas of the Credit Business Corporation, is currently in negotiations to enter the development as an equity partner. So I guess the big question is, why are we here? What is the need? I think it's well known that Ontario needs new energy facilities to support future growth and grid stability within the province. The IESO, the Independent Electric Systems Operator, is projecting an increase of about 17% new energy demand by the year 2030. This number seems to continuously rise as more people move to the province and there's a greater push for electrification. To better position the province, the IESO is conducting annual procurements. These are competitive procurements for both energy and capacity projects, with the next RFP expected in December of 2025. We understand that council already has some experience with battery storage, so I don't want to necessarily go over a lot of detail on the technical aspects. The solution essentially that we are proposing is to collect excess energy that gets produced in the afternoons, evenings, and overnight, store it within battery banks, and then discharge it throughout the day to help smooth out the demand curve and improve power quality. Because Ontario can often overproduce from our nuclear and our wind project fleets, and because energy always needs to balance supply and demand. If there's excess capacity, it usually has to be sent to other jurisdictions. That means paying locations like New York State or Michigan to take power off our hands. So the solution we're proposing would mean that Ontario could retain that power within our borders and then utilize it when we need it throughout the day. The proposed project that we're presenting here today is called the Fairfield BESS project. It is a 250 megawatt battery energy storage system located on a 95-acre parcel on the corner of Bishopsgate Road and Fairfield Road. So that's south of Burford and just north of Scotland. The site, which will be leased from the landowners, is an ideal location for this type of project because of its proximity to high voltage lines, and especially the lines having capacity. The project would sit on approximately 30 acres and be interconnected to those 230 kV lines that run east to west. The drawing that we're showing here today is not an official stamp drawing, but we did want to present something for informational and illustrative purposes to show the expected footprint of 1/3 of what the landmass currently is. The parcel is the location of a former aggregate quarry that was operated by Brant Aggregates until 2025. The land is flat and cleared with no known environmental concerns or sensitivities. We've conducted various outreach and engagements for this location with positive feedback received from multiple stakeholders. We would like to note that both the conservation authorities have reviewed the proposed location and have no concerns with the development. We would also like to notify that we've been in contact with and received feedback from Brant County's Planning Department, at which time the current zoning for the property was identified as an item that needed to be reviewed. And this is because the parcel itself has two designations, agriculture and resource extraction. The Planning Department has stated the site would need to undergo rezoning to meet the requirements as outlined in the official plan. I'd like to have Interjex speak a little bit about the benefits.
Yeah, I'd like to thank staff for unintentionally scheduling us after the budget asks tonight, because it's always nice to stand here and not have to ask for money, but instead say that this project actually will provide money for the community. So battery projects are a relatively small impact. We mentioned 20 acres, but they're a very big impact from a cost perspective. So we're talking about $500 million to develop one of these projects. You can imagine the property tax that's collected on an asset like that. Typically, we like to get into those tax negotiations kind of later in the process. You know, tonight we're much earlier in the process than that. Other impacts, obviously, in places like this, we want low-cost energy and reliable energy. And batteries really support both of those goals. So if you have voltage issues or brownouts, you're less likely to have those if you have batteries in your communities. And it also allows for the efficient use of all the existing resources across the system, including renewables, but also gas and nuclear and those things. So you do end up with lower costs overall. Obviously, you have the emissions reductions. There's not going to be any exhaust from these batteries out there. And you also have impacts from the construction. Now, on the way in here, I noticed you guys have some construction already. So maybe construction jobs aren't the kind of thing that you need right now. You have quite a few of those. But it's less than 100-ish construction employees. Long-term, it's not a lot of operational employees, probably less than 10. People sometimes hear that as a negative thing. I would say it's also a positive thing to not have large impacts on your schools, your streets, your parking, those types of things. So low long-term employees, medium short-term for construction, and a very large economic impact. One last thing that I think Intergex likes to do when they come into projects like this is we like to set aside a bucket of dollars to help the community with things that they might need help with, and specifically things that might be impacted by us being here in the community. So that means that if the fire department doesn't have all the right equipment to fight battery fires, granted that's usually contained, and we can talk about that later if needed, but we can help pay for things like that, as well as investing in things the community finds valuable. So it's obviously much too early to put numbers on those or quantify them, but that is a portion of the benefits that we would want to have discussions with you all as we move forward. So those are just some of the benefits, and I'll turn it back over to talk about some of the specifics, and then we'll open for questions.
So the LT2 RFP submission deadline, the upcoming procurement, is expected in December of 2025, with the IESO expecting to hand out contracts middle of summer next year, 2026. The full permitting, site rezoning studies should be conducted after the award. That permitting planning phase would be about 12 to 18 months, with construction starting in 2027 and expected operations in 2028. Those dates obviously are a little bit fluid and they're interdependent, so this is sort of our best guess today. In order for the Fairfield project to be able to submit in December, we must meet several requirements, one of which is a municipal support resolution, an MSR, that's provided by the hosting community. As I mentioned, we've spoken with the planning department about the project location, and they did identify the current zoning needing to be updated in order for the planning approval to be able to be made and approved later on. I think it's important to note that if council grants this request and provides the MSR, it doesn't mean that the project is officially approved by either the IESO or the county. The project will then need to be bid in. If we're successful, we'll then have to undergo numerous studies and reviews with both the provincial government and the county. The MSR is solely for the purposes of satisfying the IESO requirements and does not supersede any applicable permits or approvals under the applicable laws and regulations to the satisfaction of the county and the province of Ontario. It's essentially just the first step for us to begin the long development process as outlined and prescribed by the IESO. To date, FERMA and Intergex have conducted multiple engagement sessions with various stakeholders over the past several months, and this has been an outreach to county, that's council and the CAO's office, the planning department. We've spoken with the fire department, the local First Nations, both of the conservation authorities, and of course the immediate neighbors and the community. The goal is to engage all stakeholders often and on a continual basis to update all parties on the developments and to continue gathering information, questions, and feedback for the further advancement of the project. As part of the community engagement on August, we held I would say an open house on August 27th at the Scotland Community Centre. I would say the majority of the feedback that we have received has been positive, with no major concerns that weren't addressed in the Q&A. The questions that were generally asked were mostly around how is it selected, how does battery storage work, how will the project look, how long will it operate for, will there be noise emitted, what are the fire risks and mitigation measures, and of course, what are the benefits to the community. Just to quickly recap, so today we're asking on behalf of Fairfield BESS for a municipal support resolution so that we may be able to bid the project into the LT2 capacity RFP in December. We understand the importance of aligning clean energy development with meaningful protections for the local residents and the community at large, and we further understand the need to align with the official plan and ensure that all departments are brought into the discussion as the proposed development moves forward. We believe that this parcel of land is a perfect location for a battery storage project after being used in agriculture for many years and then being utilized for its aggregate supply for the better part of a decade. We believe that the land can now provide additional benefit to both the landowners and the community. This additional value should not be just economic, but I believe, as it was stated, in infrastructure integrity, reliability, and resilience. This type of development will help establish, we think, our project as a cornerstone of best practices and set an example for future projects within the province of Ontario. The MSR, again, is not a final approval. It's not it's a non-binding resolution that it will allow us to submit. It simply gives the project the initial confirmation that the county is aware of the project and its location and is not strictly opposed to green energy development of a battery storage project. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions?
If I can get a motion to get it on the floor, please. Councillor House and Councillor McAlpine. Councillor Pierce, you want to speak to it?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Through you to the presenters. A couple questions. You had a slide up there that was titled Outreach, and on there you put local First Nations. I heard you say something about Mississaugas. Did you also get in contact with Six Nations?
We did reach out to Six Nations. I believe there was a discussion had. The Mississaugas stepped in and were interested in having a discussion around equity and partnership.
Sorry, so there was a discussion with Six Nations.
We did reach out as part of our initial outreach to all of the First Nations that were listed, and the Mississaugas reached out in regards to a discussion for this. There were also discussions around the environmental constraints and aspects of the project and what it might mean from an ecological perspective. So we have had discussions, correct.
Okay, thank you. And then on your presentation there where it's got, here's how your community can benefit.
Yes.
You've got, economic boost, you got, grid modernization, emission reduction, all that kind of stuff, and then supporting community growth. Projects support community vibrancy through financial contributions that are aligned with local priorities and needs. What sort of financial contributions are you talking here? Can you put a dollar amount on things?
I can let Aaron speak to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so this early in the process, we don't usually say this is the thing we think the community needs that we come in, but when we do our financial modeling for these projects, we set aside dollars and say, we think we're gonna have an impact and we think the community may have a need, and let's keep some money to use for those things. As an example, there was a project where we were in a rural community that had a need for a school bus. And they couldn't fund the first few years of getting a school bus, and so we got that funded to help them kind of absorb the impact of the few different people we were bringing in for kind of long-term, in that location.
Okay, a follow-up if I could, Mr. Mayor. All right, so all due respect here, you're talking a school bus, which is fine and dandy. Hypothetically, let's say that's $100,000 on the outside.
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to suggest here on a 250 megawatt, you're going to make way more than $100,000.
Oh.
And I'm not saying that you're going to be giving away all your profits, but what I'm simply saying is you're coming into a municipality here. You got what sort of financial support? You don't have to give me an exact number, but are we talking so much a year over the lifespan?
I'm guessing that the tax liability for the project would be something in the millions, more so. I'm guessing, but.
Okay, so.
You guys will be able to estimate that better than I am, and I'm just kind of coming new to this site, so we have some exploration to do on what the property taxes would be on a $500 million project being built on this 20 acres, but this is some explorative work that, my apologies, I don't have what the tax benefit to the community would be here today, but the major benefit is not going to be those small things that we come and say, here are money we set aside for extras. It's going to be the tax benefit to your community. It's going to be the biggest one.
Okay, so again, I just want to be clear here. So what you're suggesting is the financial contribution is going to be through taxes. That's it.
Not solely through taxes. So there oftentimes are host benefit agreements, but that's a discussion that's to be had with the town at the time that the project is moving forward. So as we start the permitting process and we deal with the next steps of the approval, these discussions come up to say, okay, how can we better the community, not just through obviously the type of energy that we're producing, but also financial contributions by way of a host benefit agreement, by additional requirements that the community has. We haven't had those discussions yet because it is very early stage. The project is itself just a concept.
Thank you.
And to some extent, those happen at the next step where we know that we've been selected and we understand the economics of the project better, where we can have those discussions more clearly.
Councillor Pierce?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the latitude here. Again, all due respect here, guys, but you understand what a 250 megawatt project is going to bring in. So let's not say that you don't understand the financial aspect, because you do, or you wouldn't be here looking for it. So don't say stuff like that.
Yeah, no, but, and I think just to be clear, so we're requesting 250 megawatts as the maximum cap. That's built on the capacity that we've been told might be there.
Right.
It doesn't mean that that's gonna be the final size of the project. You often put it in at a number, and then they come back and tell you it's not 250, it's 150, or it's 100. That's the size of the project. So we're asking for the maximum that we think it might be.
Yep.
But we simply don't know the technicals yet. But yeah, Kate, your point is very well received. We understand that.
Thank you.
Understood.
Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to our presenters. Could you give us a little bit more about what Firma Energy is, how long it's been around, and what projects you've done?
So we are a early stage developer. We deal with siting, we deal with the community engagement, bringing landowners and sort of the early stage permitting in place, and then we find the utilities, the large utilities that are capitalized and able to build the projects as partners. Firma's been around for several years. Myself, I've been in the industry for over 15 years, as have my partners doing solar and battery storage in Canada and in the US.
So have you got some examples you could share with us?
So we were successful under I don't have them here, but we were successful in developing, having a contract award under the previous LT1 and then moving it to another utility. Again, as the owner-operator that are well capitalized and able to fund these projects. Our company and our partners don't have the capital to put $500 million into a
I mean, again, with respect, we don't know you, so we need to know more about you. So it would be really helpful if you could share a lot more about what you've done and the size of what you've done. Have you done a 250 megawatt battery storage project before?
We were successful in a 400 megawatt the last time around through the procurement, ISO procurement. Yeah.
And where was that?
In Ontario.
Whereabouts?
In Erin Eldersley. I'll be able to share. I'll be able to pass along details of the project.
Same question really to, if I may, Mr. Mayor, to Energex. Have you ever completed and operated a large-scale battery storage project in Canada?
We do not have currently battery projects operating in Canada. Part of that's because the market here is relatively new, and I'm not even sure how much is operational in Ontario. I would guess it's a relatively small number. We have operational assets in Hawaii and in Chile right now for batteries, and we're actively bidding on gigawatts of batteries in Michigan and other states in the U.S. But we have constructed 3 battery projects, and we have over, I want to say it's 7 gigawatts of operational renewables, which includes hydro, wind, solar, and batteries.
Again, it would be really helpful if you're asking us to give you a municipal support. We'd like to understand what we're supporting and what kind of organisations you are. Final question, and I'm glad we got the fire chief in the room. Could you say a little bit more about your plans for what happens when you have a fire? And have you actually consulted with our fire department?
We have. So Energex was able to make contact. We had tried to make contact for a little while, but we were actually able to make contact, I believe, for the last 2 weeks. It was Brett Diamond that spoke with the fire chief and had a discussion around what battery storage projects are within the county. The fire department obviously is not familiar of any best projects at the moment, and not too familiar with the response procedure. So very interested in how Energex, working with ESRG, which is the Energy Safety Response Group, is able to put together a proper plan and to address some of the concerns, mainly around, it sounded like runoff. We're also looking to try to set up, it sounds like a site visit or tour of some of the safety features, and then discussion around sort of what risks and mitigation measures we may be able to help as far as both training and then additional resources.
Is it okay, Mr. Mayor, if I ask the fire chief whether he has a comment?
Okay.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bell. I did speak to Brett Diamond on the phone, and I'm here tonight for some additional information. The biggest thing for fire is training, so we know what is on site, where is best to go and not to go. The other thing would be additional resources. So there could be some equipment that we would need to safely and effectively fight the fire. Well, protect exposures. So we're not going to fight what's on fire, but we're going to protect the exposures. So it's just safely and efficiently.
Okay, you feel enough contact has been made?
Yeah, and I've reached out to some neighboring departments that have similar facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Chambers.
Just a couple clarifications. The letter of support that you're requesting has to be given by when at the latest?
I would say as soon as possible. So the application needs to be submitted to the IESO middle of December, but the earlier we're able to, the faster we can work on the rest of the I guess the work in the background, the development and the financial planning and modeling to ensure that this is a step. If we're not able to get this letter, then there is no next step for us for this project.
So what I'm getting at, if a decision was made at our next council meeting, would that be too late?
I mean, if council is available or ready to vote on it tonight, we would obviously appreciate more time. If 2 weeks are required, then absolutely, we'll make that time.
What I'm getting at is rather than have our staff run up to the podium and answer questions now, it may be advantageous to ask our staff to present a report on the information that you're providing for, but that takes time.
Yeah.
And that would be perhaps available at our next council meeting in November. And that would be a good idea if it doesn't preclude the application from occurring.
If we could make the next meeting work, that would be okay. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so it would be okay to refer that to staff for report for our next meeting if that indeed is the wishes of council. Second question. I didn't quite hear you say whether it did require a zoning application or didn't require a zoning application. It's presently zoned for aggregate extraction and agriculture.
Yeah, so it is currently zoned both agricultural and for resource extraction. And our understanding from the planning department is that it would require a zoning change, essentially, a rezoning for the.
So it would require?
It would.
And these are the type of questions that could be brought forward in a staff report for the benefit of council rather than asking our planning director to come up and answer the question now. The other question that I have is, at the end of the day, is there a lifespan of this facility? And if there is, what happens when the lifespan is done? Does it disappear and the tax assessment go with it, or how does that happen?
So the contracts that the ISO puts out are for 20 years. So the operational facility would be a minimum of 20 years. I think it's fair to assume that the ISO may request an extension at the end of it, but we don't know that for sure. Oftentimes bonds are put in place with the county in order to ensure that there's enough funding available for the full decommissioning of the site at the end of it, so that we know exactly how it's going to be remediated and returned back to its original state. The actual time frame is at minimum, we'll say 20 years if it's awarded a contract.
So a decommissioning procedure would be required as an approval eventually?
Correct, and we expect that, yeah. And we
wouldn't want a derelict facility there.
Absolutely.
If you, after 20 years, it's the batteries or whatever, I don't know, but you wouldn't want it left there as a derelict site, and it wouldn't be, is what you're saying.
Correct.
And the final question is, with regard to the property itself, you're not purchasing the property, you are leasing the property?
That's correct.
And the lease agreement would be over the lifespan of the facility?
Correct.
And that would be dependent upon whether you could lease it again for 20 more years or an extension. So if you don't have the lease for an additional 20 years, you would have to decommission and remove it.
That's correct.
Those are my questions.
Thank you. Councillor Miller?
I just want to say, one comment, one question. I attended the I want to say anything, Daniel. I attended the public information session, as did Councillor Kyle. I thought you guys did a really good job of answering the questions from the public at the time. Yeah, and similar to what Councillor Chambers asked about what happens at the end, you talk about decommissioning, site restoration, and I can, there's a lot of gravel pits in the province of Ontario where the gravel pit operators never restored them to the way they were supposed to. So you mentioned the bonds. I don't imagine at this point we would know how much those bonds would be or who they're held with. That would be something.
That's correct. So a bond will generally be tied to the size of the system. That size of the system will be tied to what kind of contract we're able to get. So it'll be proportionate to ensure that a full decommissioning is available.
And maybe it comes forward in a staff report, but battery operator, yeah, there's a lot of funny financials going on with that. I'm not saying it with this one, but 10 years in, you go belly up, you go bankrupt. Yeah, what happens then?
You're talking about the operator or the system itself?
The operator.
So the operator is Intergex. I could let them speak to it. Again, if the concern is around decommissioning, the bond oftentimes can be held with the county for the purposes of reassurance and safety. With Intergex being around for 30+ years as a utility operating facilities across Canada and the US, Chile, and France, I believe. There's good track record behind there. I'm not sure how to answer that hypothetical.
Okay, I'm just thinking about all the money the feds and the province have thrown out these big battery operators, or battery manufacturers, and they seem not to be very financially feasible. So I'm trusting that this, I know we're not making batteries here, but this one will be a little more financially feasible.
Yeah, I understand. So the quality of the materials that are being supplied are tier 1 suppliers. The builders of the containers are Siemens, ABB, large publicly traded fundable companies. The manufacturers, the batteries are Fluence, Tesla, companies that people know. So it's not a matter of selecting the cheapest product in order to put it in there. It's buildings of the highest quality. These systems need to operate as they're modeled. Otherwise, there's usually financial implications with the ISO if they don't.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Oakley and then Councillor Kyle.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the delegation. So my understanding of the obligations gravel pit holders have, as Councillor Miller alluded to, is restoring the lands to full functional use after the fact. Just sort of noting that, it's considered as, according to our official plan, prime agricultural land. It's designated, not just zoned, but designated as agricultural land. And perhaps, staff might be able to comment on I believe what this would be asking for would be an OPA, not just a ZBA. But I'm just sort of, given that the ministry has indicated they're interested in seeing these outside of prime agricultural lands in commercial or industrial areas, just sort of, and that's in fact bonused in sort of their award criteria. I wanted you to comment on that aspect here, given that this is prime agricultural land, an area designated for prime agricultural land, given our official plan.
Of course, yeah. So I would say the majority of the land under the CLI is Class 2, or it was under the original zoning. This would have been when it was still farmed. Of course, 10 years of resource or aggregate extraction would have changed the quality of that land. So I think it would maybe be an unfair characterization to still call it prime agricultural when it was exhibiting diminishing returns on a yield per acre basis for the landowner before it was mined for 10 years. Understanding that is how the official plan has it, we would then come out and request, if it's through an official plan amendment or whatever the mechanism is, to have it accurately designated so that we can then utilize it here. We view these kinds of projects to be really well suited for land that is not productive or as productive as it once was. We're now looking to take Class 1 land out of production for the facilities. We think that this is a great use case for the landowner, the community, and for the province.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Kyle.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the presenters. My understanding, and you kind of alluded to the fact that there's different suppliers that make or distribute the different pieces that make up this facility, but at what point, obviously not all batteries, not all equipment is created equal, so at what point are you selecting the battery that you're going to put there and what quality, what tier that would be?
So it would be tier 1 quality. The process of selection wouldn't happen until we know that we've received a contract and some of the design starts to happen. And because battery technology continuously changes, including the size of the containers and the density, it would be hard for us to say today exactly what that would be, other than to make a pledge that it would be a tier 1 supplier for quality and integrity.
Okay. I think after looking at your rendering too, and having you say that there could be zoning complications, and you've, although it's not an okay site plan so far, I don't know in your little rendering there how much of that original first piece is on agriculture and how much is on aggregate. So I would suggest, just because of the kinds of questions council has brought forward tonight, that maybe we amend the motion to receive and defer to staff for some sort of a report. I don't think the questions were I think they were all over the place too, so I'm looking for a motion to amend the recommendation. Councillor Chambers, seeking a seconder. Councillor Kyle. Councillor Chambers?
Just speak to that. I don't think we need an exhaustive, complete analysis of the end product, that kind of stuff. It's just basically information gleaned upon what we've asked and to assist us in providing the letter of endorsement if that be the case. So you could be lost and never seen again in a staff report on these kind of things, but I don't think that's what we're asking for, just basically some information that would assist.
Just knowing that there's a zoning complication to it, and knowing that the zoning has its own process, which is not always timely, and these people want something timely, they want us to vote tonight, we just can't. I don't think we can do that as a council with the kinds of questions that we're asking them to come up with. So if everyone's clear on what we're voting on, it's on the floor, it's being seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I think we'll do it. We'll get back to you as soon as we can, but I do think we need to get some staff involved just to make sure we know what we're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hope we haven't scared you away.
Nope, not at all.
Good.
Thank you.
November, ANO, yeah. Okay, last but not least for delegations is Kim and Ed, but I don't see Ed, so I'm thinking it's just Kim. Ed's probably stuck in traffic on bridge number 2. And if you'd like to just give us your name and who you represent, Kim, and then you can start.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Earls, and thank you. I am the Executive Director of South Central Ontario Region Economic Development Corporation, and I do bring regrets this evening from our chair, Ed Ketchaba. I believe he is winding up some farming this evening. So with that is my presentation. Sorry. And with that, just here to provide an update on the corporation this evening. So we'll go through some things that may be familiar to many of you by this point. So SCORE was formed in 2010 as a means to collaborate regionally, to make good use of taxpayer dollars, to act as one strong voice, and to connect communities and utilize resources in a collaborative way across the 5-county region. And a little bit about our structure. So our current Structure is the county partners are at the top. Each county partner appoints 2 members to the board of directors. They then provide direction and strategic oversight to myself as the executive director. We also have the standing committee, which is the Resource Advisory Committee, which is comprised of CAOs or managers of economic development across the region. In addition to that, we have ministry and stakeholder resources that we meet with monthly, and then SCORE EDC staff. And over the past term of this committee, we have also had the benefit of the oversight of Ed Ketchabaugh as chair. Councillor Kyle is our vice chair, and Mayor Bailey is on our board of directors, and Zach Gable from the County of Brant is the chair of our Resource Advisory Committee. And so just a little visual about the area that we represent and our strategic priorities. So our strategic priorities, again, are infrastructure supporting economic development, human capital supporting economic development, and sector development with a focus on agriculture and agri-food. And if taking a few moments to go through County of Brant's strategic plan and just to identify where SCORE's activities align with or support what you're doing here locally. Again, just to ensure that we are working collaboratively. And I've done the same with the economic development strategy, and you can see there are a number of places where, again, there is not duplication, but amplifying and filling in gaps to ensure that we have the broadest economic development strategy across the region that supports not only our member counties, individual member counties, but the region as a whole. And I'll just take a few minutes to talk about some of our larger projects over the past few years. So again, SCORE is an action-oriented organization. So with economic development at our core of what we do, we're able to focus on some rather large projects, and I'll kind of quickly give an overview of each and happy to answer any questions on any of them at any time. But so the intercommunity transit, again, it's a 9 systems serving 21,000 kilometers square, population of about 2 million. Of that 2 million, about 375,000 are over the age of 65, and about 200,000 of those are low income. Our initial catalyst into getting into transit was to support job recruitment, both from an employer and an employee standpoint. The other is supporting and looking at infrastructure that enhances our supply chain and makes this area attractive for investment. And part of that is ensuring that we have great transportation networks. And certainly here in County of Brant, you're along the 400 series highway, and we've had lots of great transportation networks that way. But in addition to that, looking at our individual businesses, it's important that we have other transportation assets as well, including freight rail. So we've worked diligently on that. In addition to that, ensuring that we have options for affordable energy for our business and residents. As we're growing communities in this region, we want to be sure that we are on the forefront of those things, not only for our residential growth, but also for our farm, agribusiness, and industrial growth. One of the other projects that was completed this year was a collaboration with the Workforce Planning Board of Grand Erie, and that was the creation of a small business toolkit, and that can be found on their site as well as the website of the Elgin Middlesex Oxford Workforce Planning Development Board. And again, it provides very detailed information, sort of a self-guided tour, looking at legal, accounting, and some other assets that we hope will support and serve our small business community in addition to our economic development. Again, we continue to work with Ontario Federation of Agriculture in supporting several initiatives across the region, and to look at housing supports for smaller developers across the region. In addition to the projects that we've highlighted and some of our other projects, we do a fair bit of advocacy. Pardon me. over this last year at the AMO conference, most recently in August, we had the opportunity to meet with 7 ministers, but above and beyond that is the ongoing dialogue that we're afforded through those conversations, so being sure that we build those relationships. And again, those delegations are inclusive, so as we have delegations and we prepare for those things, we definitely reach out to all councils to request or invite them to any of our delegations and are happy to have them join us. And in addition to that, that really supports, I think, our ongoing relationships that we have, not only with the ministers and the ministries of each of those delegations, but our relationships that we build with staff. And an example of that is myself and the chair of the Resource Advisory Committee were invited to meet with Minister Fedeli in Niagara over the last few months to talk about trade and how that impacts our communities. And why SCORE? So regional collaboration is something that we've worked on for over 15 years. SCORE is sort of that mechanism that is in place for regional collaboration. We have shared economies where jobs and education and services often cross municipal boundaries, and we believe that we are right-sized. So we're large enough to test ideas and pilot projects and initiatives and get the attention of other levels of government, but also small enough and common enough issues and challenges that we can work together and come to a consensus. And with that, I've taken a few minutes to look at some financial impacts that SCORE's had over the last short while, and I've kind of broken it down into several sort of buckets or categories. So financial impact over the last couple of years, direct impact, whether that's staffing supports for SCORE's, project or promotions that we've undertaken, was around $257,000. When I look at what we've accomplished across the region through partner support, sitting on steering committees, advancing other partner projects, that's a little over $1.5 million at about $1.6 million. And then the direct benefit through staffing, so you have the benefit of having access to the Resource Advisory Committee, ministry staff, and those folks, that's just shy of $1 million for a total of those, just around $2.8 million, just shy of that. And then when I look at our financial impact across the 15 years, it's a little larger. So we have the Sand Plains Community Development Fund, that those dollars are still circulating through the communities. That was around $15 million. When I look at our projects and the impact they've had on local businesses, whether that's immediate and direct or serving that wider supply chain, that's around $42 million. And then programming that we've influenced at either the provincial or federal levels, just shy of $28 million. And then so cumulatively, all of those are around $357 million. And if we look to the future of SCORE, some of our projects and initiatives that we will continue to focus on, we've heard a couple of times this evening about changes in supply chains, changes in our relationship with our neighbors to the south, and how that impacts small businesses and our supply chains. So we have developed some programming that we were encouraged to apply for funding at our meeting with Minister Fedeli. So we've worked with County of Brant staff, and specifically Economic Development Department, to create a plan for supply chain diversification. So we will be hopefully receiving that. And again, supporting our economic and social mobility, looking to increase some interprovincial trade and strengthen our agri-food sector, and general support for the supply chains across the region. And with that, we are requesting this evening that you see the value in SCORE and that continued partnership and commitment to the region. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does council have any questions for Kim? Mr. Miller, Councillor Miller.
Just one comment. Kim, what did you, it's in your thing, SCORE's been around since when?
2010.
And here we are, 2025, and I don't, I don't think the importance of SCORE has ever been more so than it is today. I think we're in it kind of tough economically with what's going on with the tariffs and whatnot, and I don't know if this works. And we talked about before, you know, possibly Cami and Ingersoll closing. I mean, they used to employ over 3,000 at one time, so keep it up. And I think you got, I think you're needed now more than ever. That's what I'm saying. So, especially in light, like you say, in light of what's been going on.
Any other questions or comments? I think it's good that you came here today, Kim, because a lot of people in the county of Brant think that we don't have our finger on the pulse of transportation and farming and all the things they say. We never hear you talking about that. You never hear it at council, and it's because we have other things going on other than council that do have our, you know, we do have an interest in transportation, and sometimes people forget that we have more than one neighbor. We have 7 neighbors, and I think it's good that people know that we are addressing the problems that they think sometimes we forget about. So thank you for what you do. I know that we have councillors in the Horseshoe here that sees huge value in the membership of SCORE, and I know that I know that everyone values what you do, and sometimes we just have to say it out loud that we are doing everything people sometimes think we forgot about, and we haven't forgotten about them at all. We just do them through different channels other than council. So with that being said, I need someone to put it on the floor before we, Councillor Howes and Councillor Kyle. Any other questions or comments for Kim? Thanks for coming, Kim. All those in favor? Opposed? Drive carefully. Do we need a break? That's the end of delegations. You want to keep going? There might be an emergency break. Who knows? You don't know. I don't know. With that being said, it takes us to number 6 on the agenda, which is the adoption of minutes from the previous meeting. Councillor Bell, you have that? Councillor Bell? Yes. Councillor Kyle, you have that too? Okay. Let's wait. We need to wait for Councillor Bell to get his papers in order. Adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting. Are there any concerns?
That the County of Brant Council minutes of September 23rd, 2025 and County of Brant Special Council minutes of September 29, 2025 be approved.
Better late than never, Councillor Bell. Thank you.
I know, I get there in the end.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to consent items. Oh, Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regard to the special council meeting of September the 29th, we sent a letter to the province. Have we had any response, or do we know what the province are intending to do?
Letter, Councillor Bell.
In regard of automatic speed enforcement.
Oh. Who has that?
Yeah.
Adam?
I'll take it. Through your worship, no, we didn't receive a direct response to that letter. We did follow up with other advocacy groups that AMO was undertaking. Obviously, the bigger response that the Premier had was to the big city mayors, where he sort of unequivocally said, no, they're not backing down. So no, we didn't receive a formal response, but we continue to monitor the situation. Bill 56, of which this is a part of, is hung up in second reading. We were just having a meeting today about it, so we'll follow up, and there'll be a briefing note to council on Friday with, you know, some measure of update.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thanks, Adam. 8.1 is consent items to be approved. We don't have any. And then 8.2 is consent items to be received. We have 19 of them. So before we call the vote, does anyone want to discuss or talk about any of the 19 before we vote on all of them? Councillor Miller?
Yes, and I apologize for pulling these. 822, the John Noble Home Resolution Budget.
All right.
And then the library minutes, the July 23rd one.
Okay, just a minute. Yep.
And then the last one, 8.2.19, that's Grand Erie Public Health budget as well.
Okay, anybody else want anything, Paul? Okay, do you want to speak then to John Noblehome, Councillor Miller?
Well, first of all, the question I would like to ask is why is that under consent items? If we look at tonight's meeting, under staff reports, we have social services, and that's from Heather, the draft budget. Why wasn't the John Noble treated the same way? First question.
Councillor McAlpine, do you want to speak to that, or do you want to?
I'm going to pass that to staff, but we are planning to come forward to speak to the municipality about it more further.
Okay, so my question is, okay, maybe I got it wrong then. What are we consenting to in front of us?
I'm going to let Heather Boyd speak to that then.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Just receiving it.
Thank you through the mayor. Yeah, we're just receiving this at this time. We deal with the John Noble Home budget as part of external agency, as part of our regular budget process. So
So we're not
social
approving.
services is done different because of the agreement, but John Noble Home's just an external agency in our budget process.
I don't know about that. So are we approving the budget, or are we just receiving this for information and it'll come back later?
We're just receiving it, I think, tonight.
Correct, just receiving.
Okay, then I'm okay with that. Okay, thank you.
Want to move on to the library then of
The library, yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this meeting was on July 23rd. It was a special meeting. And they talked about the community engagement, because we're looking at maybe a site for a new library, and they went with the survey. They had 190 respondents. Was this also done prior, this community engagement survey? And I wonder if previous library board members would.
Councillor Howes can speak to that.
Thank you. Through the mayor, if I understand the question correctly, the community engagement process was undertaken several years ago, and it was time for an update before we were going to move into a new chapter.
Okay, so then it sounds like this was done prior to when the Bucket Center was chosen. Well, it's just interesting because in the community engagement survey, one of the first things that was said in the report was they emphasized the importance of adequate parking. So I thought that was a bit ironic, given that we didn't have the Bucket Center. So I just wanted to know if they had done it previously, so it sounds like they did. And then the last question is with the Grand Erie Public Health budget. And again, are we approving this? Is this for information? It says budget approval and financial direction. If we're approving it, I don't even know what the percentage is.
I don't believe I think we're just receiving it, but Councillor Bell can speak to that.
Yeah, well, two steps. One is this body does not approve it. That's, we just get told what it is, and I think Councillor Chambers remembers from his time there. So, but I do have the numbers, and that's what I was going to share with you. The proposed and approved indeed now increase in municipal levy for 2026 for the County of Brant will be 5.13%. And we're going to go up from 1.263 million to 1.33 million. And the health unit is also now forecasting for the following year as well, and they're forecasting 4.5% for the following year. Good news, if you want to see good news, without the merger, without having gone through the merger, if we were just Brant County Health Unit on our own, we'd actually be talking about 17.9% increase. So the merger has positively benefited us in direct financial terms.
Thanks for the good news, Councillor Bell. Councillor Chambers.
Yeah, maybe somebody can remind me the cost-sharing agreement between the various, although Norfolk and Brantford and Brant. How do we do that?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair, it is done on the basis of population. So more or less we are 15% of the total. The city is about 40 and the two other counties share the balance.
So with the increased population of Halton and Norfolk, that makes our share in comparison less the whole.
Yeah,
And that's why
when we
we're
were just
less.
Bryan County Health Unit, we were 27.9%, now we're about 15%.
Any other questions on any of the 19 items that we're voting on? Seeing none, we'll call the vote on all 19. All those in favor? Oh, I got to get on the floor, sorry. Councillor Oakley and Councillor Pierce, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, okay. Committee reports, 9.1 Paramedic Services Committee, Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Pierce, that the Paramedic Services Committee special meeting minutes of September 29th, 2025 be approved.
Any questions on the minutes of the September 29th? Seeing none, all those in favor to receive? Opposed? Carried. 9.2 is the Paramedic Services Committee meeting of October the 20th. Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Pierce, that the Paramedic Services Committee minutes of October 20th, 2025 be approved, and I'd like to maybe make a correction if I could.
Yes, sir. Your correction before we call the vote.
Thank you. And now this is on page 197 of our package.
Okay?
It's page 3 of the minutes. Anyways, there's an amendment brought forward. And it was brought forward by Mayor Davis, second by Councillor Martin, that's correct. And as far as yes goes and no's go, they got your name, Mr. Mayor, and my name interchanged.
Yes, they do.
So,
Clerks have that noted, Councillor Miller.
Yeah.
Any questions, Councillor Miller, Councillor Bell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's on page 3 of the minutes.
Yep.
I'm a little confused. There were 2 motions moved according to this. And I don't quite understand which one is standing. And maybe Councillor Miller can advise.
Councillor Miller?
yeah, I can. If you go to page 2 of the minutes, 7.2 is the original motion of the budget. Then on the top of page 3, moved by Mayor Davis, second by Councillor Martin. And that should be, I'm not sure how it looks in the minutes, but that is actually an amendment. And then that amendment was carried. And then if you go to item, the next one, the middle one, that's an amendment to the final one. And that is the final budget. It says that report 379-25 Paramedic Services 2026 budget update, belated budget items to be received. So that is the budget as presented by staff, and there was 3 items that they had missed at an earlier October meeting, and that's why they got the term belated in there. But prior to that is the amendment to that budget.
Sorry, I remain confused. It's actually, I'm looking at page 201 of our report. And the second line, there are 2 motions, one of which may have been an amendment. But if I look at the first, the second paragraph, which talks about that the paramedic services be based on the first one, it talks about June 26, and the second one talks about June 27. And I don't know which one to understand. And maybe you can explain what it means if the second one is correct.
Yeah, that's a good question, because it looks like that is an error. Should be said to be considered in June 2026.
So
Yeah.
just check 2026, okay.
That is also an error.
We'll let Cindy speak to this.
Through the mayor, that is an error, and staff did catch that and correct it before it was sent to the city, but it should say June 2026 in the final resolution that was passed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Cindy. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 9.3, Administration and Operations Committee report. That's Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Howes, that the Administration and Operations Committee report minutes of October 21st, 2025 be approved.
Any questions to Councillor Pierce on his report? Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pull number 11.
You'd like to pull number 1?
11.
11. Okay. Anything else? Counselor Miller?
Question on item 6, and I don't need a poll, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, what's your question on number 6 before we talk about 11?
Yeah, my apologies. Again, I should have asked this maybe at the committee meeting, but I missed it. Because this had come forward last year. Greg Dimmers did the same thing. He wanted to move equipment purchases up, and for good reason, so that we could get it started. But last year, I think a lot of the ticket items were purchased through Canoe. They're procured that way. And I'm just wondering, what's the procurement method for these 11 items? Are they going to tender? Are we going through Canoe?
Greg knows that.
Through the chair, that'll be a mix. Some of those will go through the standard, like the automobiles, for instance, will go through standard tendering processes. But say we look at the ice resurfacer there, we will go through Canoe because we're sourcing a specific piece of equipment. And what it'll do is we'll reach out through Canoe and they will put us in contact with the supplier for the best pricing.
Okay, thank you. And I think, Mr. Mayor, Greg knows why I'm asking that, because there's a lot of tenders that the county issues and procurements. And again, going back to what I mentioned when Kim was up there from SCORE, we seem to be in a bit of an economic downward spiral at the moment. And like I say, we have a lot of people in our area that work at CAMI. So if they go under, it's going to be a real problem. And there's been an emphasis, different municipalities, you read about it in the paper, they say, we need to maybe come up with a solution to these tariffs and whatnot. And is there any way, is there an avenue for us as the county to maybe buy local? Or at least put that as part of the component when we issue an RFP. I've been asked that twice now in the last 2 weeks, so that's why I'm bringing that forward.
Okay. Heather, I just assumed that we would do that first, but Heather Boyd, if you want to speak to that?
Sure. So we reported last year with the education session on procurement. And although local preference is well-intentioned practice of giving treatment to local suppliers, it is in contravention of a number of provincial and federal acts, including the Discriminatory Business Practices Act, the Canada-European Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, and the Canadian Free Trade Agreement. So we can't, in our bids and tenders, give local preference by law. So when we do that, when we do small purchases, like on a staff that don't have to go through bids or tenders, we can purchase from local suppliers. Working with our procurement groups do tend to also give us more leverage in terms of doing it into local suppliers, but our bids and tenders cannot have a local preference clause in them.
Okay, and that's most unfortunate, Mr. Mayor.
I think we do it when we can, though. I think we try very hard to do it when we can, so. Is there anything else, you, Councillor Coleman, you wanted to go back to 11?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and I probably shouldn't have pulled up, probably got more questions than anything. And one of the questions I do have is my concerns on closing number 1 station. And the reason my concern is it's a station that does cover St. George. Now, I know people will say the new Northport station will cover St. George, but it's still got to cross the river. And that is a concern for me. Number 1 station does not have to cross the river to get to St. George. And I think that's just, I'd rather see more stations in right locations so we can cover everybody. And I'm worried about consolidating number Paris Station and Airport Station. How many calls do you estimate they're going to have? You don't have to answer me that tonight. how many calls you're predicting they're gonna have to deal with in a year. Because the more calls you get for those men, you start losing them because they can only handle so much. And that's what I'm concerned down the road. So by putting those two stations together, how many calls do you expect they're gonna have to handle? And I think I'd rather have my stations a little spread out a little better, but able to cover everybody, and some of our firemen are not overworked. I know number one station gets enough calls as it is, but you could be putting a little more pressure on them all the time. And it's still cheaper to have volunteer firemen any day than have full-time firemen. Look at the town of Simcoe. They have not got full-time firemen. And I believe Simcoe is a fairly sized town.
Okay, so because you said you didn't really need to pull it, we just have questions on it, we don't have to vote on it separately, so we're gonna still vote on all of them together. Any feedback to Councillor Coleman? Anybody have anything? Councillor Kyle?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. And admittedly, Councillor Coleman and I have chatted a little bit about this, so I do share his concerns with the response time for coverage in St. George, just with the North Station having to go up and around over through Glen Morris to get across to Highway 24, for example, or down through Paris to get over there. So there is easier access for them where they are now. So if there was a way to keep something there, that would maybe make me feel a little bit better, but open to hearing what staff could come back to us with options.
I always thought the intent of the new station was to sort of go through Glen Morris and St. George. I didn't realize that it was going to, number one was going to be closed that quickly. So maybe the staff report can explain why it needs to be done, or what other options we have. I would think with Paris growing, if number one is busy, it would be nice to know that number two could zip over to Glen Morris, because it is an area that just seems to be not serviced. So, Councillor House?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and trying to be respectful of both those points of view, but also the intention to try and consolidate some things, not have multiple fire stations all over Paris that have to be functioning properly. And we don't know yet, we haven't seen yet what an operational North Paris Fire Hall looks like, how that functions, how it deals with the number of calls. And I'm very respectful to our firefighter staff, and I believe that the process we're going through is still going to give us an opportunity to see ideas for this combined South Paris Airport Hall, and opportunity for us to evaluate it along the way before finalizing any decisions.
Yeah.
So just to keep some momentum on that.
Yeah, we can call on the fire chief to speak to it. But it's good that we let our concerns be known now before we go any further, so. Darren?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to councillors, because there was more than one that spoke regarding this. So I understand the concern. Paris would be a secondary response, so we're not making any changes to St. George. So for secondary station responses on structure fires, so that's when they would be a two-station response, which would normally be Paris. And it would, you're right, be a shorter distance from where current Station 1 is. Over the I did a little research, and it was in the study a little bit, but over the last 5-6 years, St. George averages somewhere between 100 and 150 calls per year. 20% of those 10 to 20% of those calls are fire smoke. Fire smoke entails structure fires, car fires, burn complaints, brush fires, outbuildings, So 20 calls makes up a lot of other calls, incidents. So when there is a structure fire, so residential, commercial, industrial, second station gets paged to assist if required. Normally, they send one truck if more are needed, because we don't want to drain one station. So then we start moving apparatus around so there's still coverage. So there would still be good coverage for St. George. Secondary response would be a little bit longer, but they would still come. They would already be dealing with the incident with staff at St. George. Does that help a little bit? No? I guess I shouldn't have asked that question. But yes.
Councillor House.
Through the chair, Darren. So just recapping those numbers a little bit. So St. George gets approximately 150 calls total per year in that ballpark. And then what I'm trying to get at, just reiterate, the total number of calls, the number of those calls that are actually firefighter calls, like fighting fires or smoke, and then out of those, the number that would require assistance from the secondary site.
Station, yes. So through Mr. Mayor to Councillor House. So I went back several years. So 2019, they had 150 calls. Recently, they've been averaging 100 to 115 calls. So their St. George's call volume has actually dropped over the years. When they had the 150 calls, it was actually 10% were fire, smoke, which was 15 calls. 2 of them were structure fires. So 2 out of 150 calls were residential structure fires, where a secondary station may have been needed. Sometimes the secondary station responds and is on standby there in case they're needed. Sometimes it's something small, like, and I shouldn't say small, but it's a pot on the stove, which is extinguished quickly, and the secondary station returns even en route.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, and yeah, I'm somewhat okay, but I'm worried about how many calls you're dumping on the new station in the southwest station, in the south corner, under 403. You haven't answered that question, and maybe you haven't got an idea how many calls you think they're gonna have. But I worry about the more calls you put on the men, it takes a toll on them. We all know that. You've been there, I've been there. So, but I just worry about that and a few other things like that. And like I say, you still got to cross that damn river, and it doesn't matter what. All it takes is, we all know how a shutdown can happen pretty quick. I got caught in the night, so did Councillor Chambers in the 403. It can happen. And that's when when you need emergency services, time is of an essence.
Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. I agree, when we need emergency services, time is of the essence. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I think also part of this is the fact that, you know, if in fact this does go through and we have a new station that combines station number 1 and number 2, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Chief, but with the new station and the North Paris, that's going to take a lot of the calls that station number 1 would normally be going to. So if we take those calls off and then we add the calls that airport's going to get, it's probably going to, at the end of the day, end up being less calls than what they're taking now out of station 1. Is that a fair assessment, or am I off base here?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Pierce. That is close, yes. So current call volume in Paris is approximately, it's going to be approximately 400 calls this year is what I'm estimating. They've ranged between 300 and 385 was, I think, off the top of my head, one of the larger years. So with Paris North coming on board, that call volume should cut in half, depending on where the boundaries are between those two stations. Airport averages around 100 calls a year, I believe. So they would be, if we merged new north or south Paris Station out on Rest Acres Road and Airport, potentially there could be an additional 100 calls coming in. But we also look at whether we change any other boundaries between Burford and Mount Pleasant and Scotland. Like, we look at all the boundaries as long as we can meet the response time and look after the health and wellness of our volunteer firefighters.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay, Councillor Coleman, that's good. I just know that the people in Glen Morris are going to be very happy to have the new fire station a little bit closer again, so they don't have to go across the river. So it makes me feel better for the Glen to be protected by the new station. Any other questions to the 15 points of Councillor Pearson's report? Seeing none, all those in favor to receive? Opposed? Carried. Staff report 10.1, it's deferred from the administration operation. This is the parking and traffic modifications. I'm not sure which councillor wanted that brought forward. Councillor Bell, I think, and Councillor Chambers too, about his big rigs parked in the parking lot when they're working. I'm going to get somebody to put it on the floor for me so we can talk about it. Councillor Bell, Councillor Chambers. Councillor Chambers, you want to speak to it first?
Yeah, we did receive a briefing on the questions that I had in the Friday file with regard to the heavy truck parking in residential areas. And the way it was explained in the briefing material, I think that alleviated my concerns. It's essentially no person shall park a heavy truck on a street in a residential area, but if they're parked at a repair shop, that's fine, and that's just common sense. So thanks for clarifying the various questions I had with regard to the heavy truck parking on residential streets.
And Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, there were two items that I'd like to mention. One was Dundas Street West, and if you look at the report, it begins with a concern raised by one resident. And it goes on to talk about what that one resident wanted to have done. What the report doesn't talk about is a report that we passed in council in July of 2023, which basically approved what is now going to go ahead. But in all fairness, if one person can trigger this, I feel obliged to report that one person has written to me with concern. And I think I have to give that some weighting, but we need to recognise that we as council in July 2023 basically said we're going to change the parking on the east side of Dundas Street. So that should be the prevailing support to that change. And if that could be amended in the report, I would appreciate it. But I really wanted to speak about Grand River Street North. And if you'll just bear with me for a little while, just a little bit of interesting insight. So I think everybody knows that the removal of angled parking and the perceived diminished ready access to downtown retailers has been contentious right from the very get-go of the Paris Downtown Master Plan. Parking and traffic flows through downtown are hot-button issues for the Paris community. An indication, I posted 2 photographs last week on Facebook, one pointing south down Grand River and one pointing north down Grand River. And so far it's had 140,000 views. It is a hot topic. But all that said, most of those 140,000 views, when they turn into comments, are somewhat negative. But I believe that we as council actually made absolutely the right decision. If we're going to tear up the road to renew and upgrade utilities, then we should change the streetscape as well to improve accessibility and beautify the downtown. So the end product, I think, is going to be absolutely fantastic. And we're almost through it. We're coming to the end of it. And I want it to be a success. I don't want it to be remembered as something of a failure. And I want our residents to be delighted by what they see. And I think it will be wonderful that the changes are all positive. I don't want them focused on parking. I don't want them focused on the parking style. I don't want them focused on the parking quantity. I think with respect to quantity, rather than taking the view that many people online think we're removing car parking spaces from Grand River Street North, actually the net effect is to add 20 to 30, I think 20 to 26 parking spaces on Grand River Street North that we have done without for the last year. And we added 71 spots back where the old OPP station was. So I think it's a net positive. I'm not sure everybody will believe me, but it is a net positive. Regarding the parking style, we've designed and we've constructed a shift from angled to parallel parking. And we've added dedicated loading spaces, which I think is really, really good to do. And we've got dedicated invalid parking. But many in our community still are unhappy. Our community social media has introduced me to a new word, and you'll like this one, Brian, parallelophobia. And parallelophobia is a fear of parallel parking. And we should take this somewhat seriously, although it has a light-hearted side as well. The view that I put on Facebook, the instantaneous reaction was, the road is too small, it won't accommodate two vehicles going up and down, and people can't parallel park. So the minute somebody wants to parallel park, the traffic's just going to come to a grinding halt. So I'm advocating for larger, longer parking spaces, not more, in fact, we'll have less. But we don't need more because we've got more at the back. We've got plenty of parking spaces to satisfy the demands of downtown Paris. So best practice would indicate that parking bays should be 1.5 times the length of the average vehicle. And if anybody can remember what parking used to look like on Grand River Street North, at least 50% of the vehicles there were pickup trucks with an average length of 5.5, maybe 6 meters. So we need to think about having parking spaces which are not 6.75 meters, as the drawing that you have on your report says, but somewhere closer to 8 or 9 meters, to allow people to drive in, drive out, not hold up the traffic. I believe sincerely that if we don't do something like that, we will be continuously hounded by our community, and the positives of what we've done, what we are doing on Grand River Street North will be lost in a fog of social media concern about people holding up traffic, people not being able to parallel park. And I know Dave Miller, our GM, has got some thoughts on that, and I would be willing to make propose an amendment to increase the length of the parking spaces downtown to accommodate drive-in, drive-out, and I'll let Dave and the operations department determine whether that's 8, 9, 8.5 meters. And that's my pitch. Thank you.
Dave, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. Through the mayor to Councillor Bell. So I put some drawings on everyone's desk here. And the question that was posed to staff at last week's admin and ops meeting was, how many spaces would we lose if all of them mirrored the loading zones, which are 10 meters long? So we would lose 7 spaces. That's the answer to the question. And, we started looking a little bit more at the spaces, and really the first drawing that I've shown is, how the street would operate. So the vehicle there is 4.4 meters. That's the average length vehicle in Canada. It's, right, I'll get to that. So this street is unique in that there's 2 half-meter rollover curbs on either side of the driving lane. So if you imagine when you're parking in a typical parking spot, you have a barrier curb that you can't roll over. In these spots, you can. So there's a lot more room for maneuverability for people to come in and roll over that curb and then readjust if they're pulling in or if they're parallel parking. And additionally, to Councillor Bell's point, I worked and lived in Northern Ontario where, this parking lot would be 50% half tons, 3/4 tons. And I did some checking because I'm somebody that, it's hard to visualize what's 6.7 and how it operates without actually what is a 6.7 meter long spot. So in our downtown in Northern Ontario and Kenora, our spots were 6.7 for parallel parking. And sure, if you are in a crew cab 3/4 ton truck, you're not going to be able to pull in easily, or if both vehicles are on either side, it would be challenging for them to find a spot. But, your average user, many of the vehicles that most people drove here tonight would be able to park with ease downtown. And if I may, really quickly, so the road width has come up, and I just want to point out to council, just to visualize, in the pull-in parking drawing, there's 2 passenger cars lined up side by side. It's a very common complaint we get whenever we do rehabilitation works. You lose your visual reference when the curbing gets removed, and then when it's placed, it feels tight. So those 2 vehicles there, those are 2 F-150 trucks, Ford F-150s, half tons, with their mirrors included, just as a visual to kind of understand how much room will be downtown here in Paris.
Councillor House.
Thank you. Dave, do we have an opportunity to put this on the screen so that the many people who watch from home can have an opportunity to see what we're talking about? Or I'm struggling a little bit with the fact that only we can see this.
I could quickly.
Yeah. Is that possible? Just because I think,
Yeah.
I think it's important enough that people watching later may want to scroll ahead to see this. And while you're figuring out the technology on that, am I understanding that from your opinion, unless you're driving a really, really big truck, the 6.7 meter length of parking spot would allow most cars to be able to pull in and pull out without sacrificing the extra spots with a longer parking spot?
That's correct, because what our analysis and what's shown there, that's correct, to answer your question.
Okay, and follow up, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Because believe me, I've been watching the social media commentary. Councillor Bell's not wrong, but equally, we're gonna face a lot of criticism if traffic's backed up because somebody's trying to reverse into a parking spot and it takes them 3 tries. But we're also gonna face a lot of criticism if what used to be dozens of parking spots downtown gets reduced by an additional 7 spaces because we want to give the super long drive-in, drive-out spot. So we're going to face some heat either way, and that comes with the job. But thank you for putting it on the screen, and I trust that people at home will be able to see that. So looking at the image on the bottom, so the parking spots are the same size in both illustrations. The top one's showing how a car would reverse into the spot. The bottom one's showing how a car would pull into the spot. And I'm just reiterating, Dave said from his opinion, that can be achieved with those same parking spots with average cars. My other question then is the plan, we know there's gonna be accessible parking spots, that's needed. We know there's gonna be places for merchants to have trucks dropping stuff off. The parking spots that don't fall into those 2 categories, are they gonna have certain time limits? Is the intention that if you're parking on the front street, you're planning to be in and out in half an hour, whereas if you're planning to shop for the day, maybe you're gonna park out back? Is there any discussion on that yet?
Adam?
Through your worship. So we had initially discussed sort of internally back in August, what would that look like? I know several things have been bandied about over the course of probably the better part of a year and a half, 15-minute spots, 30-minute spots. But I think sort of in the interim, the solution is to maintain 2-hour parking, because I think there's an opportunity to actually evaluate how the parking's gonna work. You know, I think there's an opportunity to take a look to see what a standardized spot looks like and evaluate what adjustments we need to make. The other thing we're gonna evaluate is how many accessible spots we need. When we went to accessibility and proposed, well, what does, you know, half the spaces look like? We were kind of told, that seems excessive. Like, you know, there was currently, I believe, 4 or 5 in the existing setup, or sorry, the previous setup, and, you know, going to half of that looked excessive. So I think overall downtown, we have to evaluate what parking looks like. It's gonna be difficult to assess over the winter. It's gonna be difficult to assess through next summer with the construction still occurring on Grand River Street North. But I think there's a chance within the infrastructure we're generating and we've constructed to truly evaluate how all this functions in the longer term, while still evaluating how it works in the short term. So currently, the 2-hour limit is what I think is proposed. If it's a shorter time period that we, you know, see that maybe people are staying there a little bit too long, because we've encouraged that with the maintenance of the 2-hour period, then we'll come back and present some further solutions to parking. Because I think there's some solutions in the back parking lot and this parking lot here that we want to evaluate in terms of adding accessible parking to avoid what I believe parallel parking phobia, if that's the technical term, on that. But I think the other point I wanted to make, and obviously this is discussions that I've had too over the better part of the past couple of years. You know, we do talk about the delays from parallel parking, that's fair. But I think what people maybe forget is that there was significant delays when people were trying to back out of angled parking spots. And there's significant delays when you had, you know, a 3/4 ton truck blocking your view. I don't know how people did it before backup cameras. Right. Because, I mean, you could barely see. So, you know, and I drive a full-size sedan. So I think people will tend to forget that there were delays when you would have to stop to let someone back out of an angled spot. So I think the messaging is there's time to evaluate it. And I think we've made significant reformation to downtown Paris, and we need the time to evaluate how that all works organically before we continue to make some sort of longer-term solutions.
Councillor House.
Thank you. Last final follow-up, at least for now. Appreciate all the details, very helpful, thank you. Question back to, and noting what Adam said, what people see over the next 6 months isn't necessarily the way it's gonna be forever. We're gonna evaluate, we might have longer parking spots, we might have shorter parking spots, we might change the time limits. That's good to know. Back to Dave. So in the illustration of 6.75 meter length parking spot, I'm really gonna put you on the spot on your Paris trivia now. How does that compare to the length of the parking spots that people see now on Grand River Street North, say up by the Dog-Eared Cafe, by Cobblestone, or over here on Mechanic Street?
So through the mayor, just give me 1 minute, but that would put my Paris trivia on display.
Thank you. And I know that, and that's short notice. I hadn't thought to forewarn you about the question, but just to give people a reference point, if we are trying to propose that they pull in to a 6.7 meter long parking spot.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you to Mr. Mayor. Thank you to David for drawing these out. As we were talking there, I observed some interesting dynamics from a truck driver, Councillor Coleman, who would say that you probably couldn't do what is suggested in here in the vehicle you drive. Is that correct? Okay. I was looking for you to you for support, but I'm going to make a motion to amend what is written here to state something to the effect that I would like to see the length of these parking spaces on Grand River Street North designed to accommodate drive-in, drive-out for vehicles typically that we see in Grand River Street North, which includes probably 50% of which are pickup trucks. And whether the answer is 8 meters or 8.5 or 7.35, I would quite happily leave that to staff. But I think we need to have that facility to drive in and drive out. Otherwise, we will regret this in 4 weeks' time.
Councillor Oakley.
A seconder.
Looking for a seconder. Councillor Oakley. You want to speak to it?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I had a few comments, questions. I just wanted to ask Dave on here, the diagram that we have for 7.35 meters, there's no spaces noted as lost. Is that accurate? There's no spaces lost with 7.35 meters?
6.75 through the mayor, 6.75 meters?
The second drawing we have, which is 7.35.
So we would lose spaces with that.
Okay, they're just not calculated.
It's likely in the same number of, you know, we haven't ran it, we didn't have much time here.
Yeah.
But we would lose spaces as well, just by virtue of how the street parking is laid out. It's not all in a row. If we make one wider, we will lose a space in that short area.
Okay.
And then just as a follow-up, if I may, the current parking stall length in front of the Dog-Eared Cafe, to answer Councillor House's question, is 6.7 meters.
So on that topic, I will be supporting Councillor Bell's amendment here, though I want to make some notes. I support doing this because I think it's probably better for us to start larger, work our way down in terms of how the parking's going to evolve over time, just so that we don't have that immediate, the roads open, and then we have, as I think folks in the public, some folks in the public think, chaos. I don't think that's how things are going to go, but regardless, I think giving us the best opportunity to have things flow smoothly works. I also just, anecdotally have been driving in Paris for 13 years since I was 16, and sorry, Councillor House. And I can count the number of times on one hand that I haven't been able to find parking somewhere downtown, and both of those times were during Remembrance Day. Now I just walk. So I think over-designing our parking work needs doesn't suit to good land use planning. I do want to, however, speak against myself for a moment in highlighting that, we have a climate action plan. We're encouraging people to think green. I don't think necessarily we should be designing all of our infrastructure. We've talked in the past about mandating that driveways are longer to accommodate large vehicles. I don't think our infrastructure should be accommodating folks in their personal choice to purchase vehicles that may not be compatible with infrastructure. I don't think encouraging folks who live in suburban Paris who don't need a truck to buy a truck, that's a choice you're going to make, and how that may impact where you can park your vehicle. So I don't think from that aspect we should be supporting this, but I will support from the aspect of there's plenty of parking in Paris, in downtown Paris, and this will help facilitate smooth traffic. Thank you.
Are you finished? All right, so we have something on the floor. It's been seconded, if you can imagine. We have to vote on it. Is there any other comments before we call the vote? Councillor Pearson, then Councillor Calpine, and then Councillor House.
So just to be clear here, through you to Councillor Bell, you're not setting a number of the length. You're just looking for it to be able to drive in, drive out.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor McAlpine.
I won't be supporting this. I believe that we need every space that we can downtown, so I think that the current proposed length has been the standard in many communities and well used, and I think we should stick with that.
Councillor House.
Thanks. I was going to ask pretty much what Councillor Pierce asked tonight. I'm more inclined to support Councillor Bell's amendment because he's not nailing down a number. He's leaving some of it up to the professional judgment of staff, which I appreciate.
Councillor Chambers.
I agree with Councillor McAlpine. I drive a Dodge Ram pickup truck crew cab, and I drive a Jeep Wrangler, and I much prefer parking the Jeep Wrangler than I do the Dodge pickup truck. And personally, and this is just a personal observation on my own behalf, that if the parking lot or parking space is 3 feet longer and I'm parking my truck, I'm not going to park there whether it's 3 feet longer or 3 feet shorter. I'm going to go around the block and park where I can park it. So I don't think it's going to matter that much to the people that are driving trucks. If it's 1 foot longer, if they're not going to park there, they're not going to park there, whether it's 1 foot or 2 foot longer. So I think I agree with Councilor McAlpine and won't be supporting the resolution. And it's not the kind of thing that can't be changed over time anyway. It's just paint on pavement that can happen because there is a drive-over curve anyway, whether that's not the issue. It's going to be there regardless.
Councillor Kyle and then Councillor Pierce.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. I am in agreement with both Councillor Chambers and Councillor McAlpine as well. I think we're better to have more parking spots. Knowing now that the spots in front of Cobblestone and the Dog Eared Cafe are the 6.7 or whatever this number was that they've suggested. I've seen vehicles of all different descriptions parked in those spots, and they don't seem to have any trouble pulling in, pulling out, getting parked. You don't notice a lot of traffic backed up if someone is trying to back in. And then the other thing that I would suggest to Councillor Chambers' point, if I bring my husband's truck, I know that I'm not going to be aiming for a tight spot. I'm going to be going to find something a bit bigger, and I might walk a little bit further. But if I've got my little Toyota, I'll park wherever I can put that little thing. So I don't think we should be necessarily accommodating extra large spaces in, and then losing other space because of that. I think that folks who drive big vehicles they know the drill. The grocery store, I'm going to park the thing at the back of the parking lot. I'm not going to try and get in front where there's going to be tight squeeze. So that's not to say we need to ignore the fact that people do drive bigger vehicles, but just knowing that I have seen some of those big pickup trucks parked in those parking spots without any trouble. And it doesn't matter if the ones on either side of you aren't parked in the center, you might have trouble regardless of how big the space is. So making them bigger isn't always the solution either. So I will not be supporting the amendment.
Councillor Miller.
I have driven a 3/4 truck quad cab in Ottawa downtown. Do you know how many parking spots you can put that truck? Almost none. So what do? You drive until you find a parking spot. I don't like pandering to the lowest common denominator, and that's what this motion seems to do.
Any other comments before we call the vote? Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. So I guess it's safe to say that I may have been driving for a little longer than Councillor Oakley's 16 years, but that's okay. We'll go the last 16 years to make him feel part of this. If we look at the pickup trucks that have parked in downtown, if you're driving a pickup truck, you're gonna park wherever you're gonna park anyway, right? So whether the spots are 8 meters, 6 meters, it doesn't matter. If somebody thinks they can get their vehicle in there, they're going to put their vehicle in there. To the points that were made here, some people just don't even bother parking on the main street, they park out back. I agree with what Councillor Bell is saying here. We've got something that is going to be absolutely amazing downtown. And the last thing that we want to have happen is to have to fix it afterwards. So to me, I think it's a good idea to start with the bigger spots. That way we can always reduce them. But if we start with the smaller spots and it is a little bit of chaos, it's quite ironic because I believe that when you take your driver's test, you have to parallel park. You don't angle park, you have to parallel park. It's quite ironic that for a lot of people, maybe that's the last time they've ever parallel parked is when they got their license. Well, neither here nor there. When you get your license, they don't teach you to angle park, they teach you to parallel park. So I'll support the motion because I think, you know, at this point in time, if we can make them a little bigger and then let's say we do it for a year and we find, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't need them this big, then we can make them smaller. But if we make them smaller off the hop, then we're just looking for trouble.
Anyone else have anything to say before we call the vote? Seeing none, are we clear what we're voting on? Do you want to read it? Yeah, big spots.
Through your worship to council, I will fix up the wording a bit more, but in essence, what I have is to increase the parking space length on Grand River Street to accommodate drive-in and drive-out for pickup trucks, and you leave staff to determine the appropriate length.
Okay, it's on the floor, it's been seconded. All those in favor of bigger parking spots? Opposed? Fails in a tie. Okay. I wish that was our biggest problem on the main street, Councillor Bell. So we have to now vote on the staff report as amended? Yeah? That's it? There's nothing else?
Back to my 15 recommendations.
Back to your 15 recommendations. All right. Any other questions to any of Councillor Pierce's 15 recommendations? Seeing none, all those in favor to receive the report? We have to vote on your report.
I'd like to separate that last item.
Okay,
I'm going to vote against it.
okay. You're going to have to give me a minute then.
Mr. Mayor, it doesn't have a number associated with it. So I'll have to demonstrate what item it was.
All right. So separation is from Schedule A?
It is,
Schedule A of administration?
it's the top of page 231. It's the first paragraph and 3 bullet points on.
So through the,
Dave, can you speak to what Councillor Bell wants separated?
through the mayor, Councillor Bell, what are you looking to separate out, the specific language for the waiting zones?
You have, if I may, Mr. Mayor, you've included a drawing in here.
Yeah.
Which goes with this. If you take the drawing out, then the problem is solved. But the wording I don't object to. It's the drawing that is associated with the wording that I object to. But it's only me that's objecting, so.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda.
Yep.
It's a separate, yeah.
Then I would request that we take the drawing out, because otherwise I am going to object to it.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I know, but if it's an amendment, but.
but it's not in the agenda to begin with. It was a handout, wasn't it?
No, there was a drawing associated with this report. Yep.
What page did you say, Councillor Bell?
I can pick up the drawing number. No,
Oh, I see, yes.
there is a drawing in there.
It's on page 255 of our report.
Thank you. 255?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what you're talking
Yep. So I'm objecting to that drawing, or the content of that drawing.
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't have a 255 in my package. It's an attached, does it have an attachment number on it? Or the one with the,
Sorry, you're going off the,
okay. So Councillor Bell wants the picture of the barns, the whole thing pulled.
yeah, Because that,
For what reason again?
because that I want it, I'm going to vote against it, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I want to vote against that paragraph,
okay,
and the drawing that is associated with that paragraph.
okay. Councillor Howes?
I think as a point of order here, I don't think Councillor Bell can cherry pick these items within the report to keep or not keep. I think he's gonna have to, because they're not separate pieces. I think he's gonna have to vote against the support of the recommendation in its entirety.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to vote against the entirety.
I know, but I don't think the part through the mayor, I don't think the mechanism exists to just start pulling pieces out of the report.
It's not a separate recommendation, Councillor Bell. It's part of an entire report. So you'd have to vote against the report.
That's fine, I'll vote against the report. Yeah.
Okay.
Solve this conundrum.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Pierce, you look confused. Why are you confused?
Well, Mr. Mayor, a little bit here, because I see where Councillor Bell's going here. So within that staff report, there has to be something noted to that diagram. That diagram's not in there just to have a diagram in there. There's got to be something within that report that notes the specifics for that diagram. So I'm just going through it here.
If I may, Mr. Mayor? So the recommendation within that report only relates to the loading zones, specifying the 10 meters for the loading zones and the 15 minutes for the loading zones. And then as well, I believe, looking at Greg Demers, the accessible spots, so that it amends our parking and traffic bylaw. That's what it is.
But if I may, by implication, you're asking me to approve something which I don't approve of. I'm happy just to vote against the whole report, just to move things on, because it's not going to make a blind bit of difference. Yeah.
But he's saying it doesn't relate to the.
No, that's showing.
It shows exactly what is, I think is wrong.
But it does show the parking spots, but that's noted as the loading zones, right?
Yeah.
Right, but your amendment failed.
Yeah. So I'm going to vote against the whole lot. I would rather vote for most of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to just call the vote, Councillor Bell, because I don't have it in here. It's, okay. All those in favor of the report? Opposed? Noted, thank you. Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy. 10.2, Social Services Draft Budget. Heather Mifflin's here to speak to it. Does anyone have this? No. I need a motion to get it on the floor. Councillor Bell and somebody, Councillor Oakley, thank you. Any questions on the draft budget to be received for information? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried? I'm sorry? Okay. 10.3, development charges. Heather Mifflin, you're here. Who wants to put it on the floor? Councillor Coleman and Councillor Pierce. Any questions? Call the vote. Councillor McAlpine.
So just to be clear, are you using the combination of London and Toronto, and the three are just London?
Heather Mifflin.
Through the chair, we're just using London.
The reason why I'd be concerned about that is that a lot of our costs are similar to Toronto and Hamilton in a lot of respects, so I'd be concerned just dealing with London, so.
I don't understand, Councillor McAlpine. You're asking her, you say our costs are more like Toronto than London?
Well, no, I'm just saying that when we're doing projects and stuff, some of our our contractors come from other areas, like we're competing with Hamilton and places like that. Anyway,
Okay,
I just thought it might be a combination of the three, that's all.
okay, all right. Do you want to speak to that, or you just?
Through the chair, I think under the Development Charges Act, you have to pick one. Obviously, we're not picking Ottawa, so it's between Toronto and London's just been added. So we are closer to London, so that's the basis of the choice.
Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 10.4, the council vacancy. Put it on the floor, get it on the floor. Councillor Pierce, Councillor House. You have a recommendation in front of you. Discussion. Councillor Miller?
If we went the by-election route, when would be the earliest that person would be seated at the table?
February 3rd. Isn't that
Okay.
right?
Seated at council, well, through your worship, we would be looking at an end of February election. And so I would think that they would start in March, Heather? Yeah, okay.
Okay, so, and we take August off. May, June, July. Yeah, so that would be 6 months, so, I'll just give my position and then go from there. I would rather we appointed somebody, because to put somebody new in there, there's a steep learning curve, end of March. I don't think that's gonna cut it. So that's why I'm not in favor of, putting somebody in there through a by-election or somebody that has no experience with municipal business. We could get ourselves in a lot of trouble having the wrong person in there that doesn't quite know the rules and speaks out of turn. So I'm not supportive of the by-election process.
Councillor House?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if this is a polite point of order, or are we debating this now?
Well, I didn't think we were. Allison, do you want to speak to this?
Through your worship to council, so the intent is that we declare the seat vacant tonight as recommended in the report, and that staff will come back to the A&O committee in November with a fulsome analysis of the options along with costs, so that council has all the information in front of them before they have the debate and make that decision.
Councillor House?
So, sorry it's late, I'm getting foggy. We have a mover and a seconder on this?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, but that's to receive the staff to
ask
proceed
staff for-
with the staff recommendation.
On our options.
Yeah, on the options. I think it's premature to start debating the merits of the options when we haven't seen the details on the options, the cost on the options. I respect Councillor Miller, what he's saying. I'm just thinking maybe that's for conversation next
It's hard for me to ignore hands, though, when they're in the air, when I'm supposed to be entertaining hands that are in the air. Councillor Oakley and then Councillor Bell.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding as well from conversation that I had about this would be that we'd be anticipating a report, but I would concur with Councillor Miller that in the way, in particular, the second clause is written, the wording to me speaks that it's looking for direction tonight to go one way or another. So I think perhaps that wording should be changed to reflect that we're directing staff to produce a report to investigate undertaking either an appointment process or by-election fill the vacant council position. The current wording as is speaks to me that we should be making a decision this evening.
I think this evening we have to declare the seat vacant. That's what we have to do tonight. And then direct staff to come up with a report with either a by-election or an appointment or something else. Councillor Bell and then Councillor Pierce.
Yeah, I was going to, through you, Mr. Mayor, I was going to make the same point that Councillor Oakley has made, because it is asking us to make a decision. And if I'm asked to make a decision, if it takes 6 months to fill the appointment, there'll only be 6 months left after that before we have a full election. So I think we should just go straight to the appointment process.
Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So as I don't know, I think I moved it or seconded it, one or the other anyway. So as a mover, I'd be willing to put an amendment in there that the County of Brant Council declare the office of Ward 1 Councillor formerly held by Christine Garneau to be vacant, fine, and that direct staff to bring a report to understand the options of the appointment process or by election.
That's right. Yeah, that sounds right. Councillor Kyle?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. And I believe there's the third clause there. We do need to decide on some of those other committee
Committees.
appointments.
Yeah. The clerk wants to speak to that.
Through your worship to council, just, I left out one item on that list of other appointments. I forgot to include Court of Revision for drains, so that's another appointment that we'll need to fill.
Okay, Councillor Chambers?
Yeah, I'm assuming the report that's going to be coming back will talk about the process, because there's more than one way to make an appointment, and that's what I think the report is going to generate. So I think that is what.
I think the staff report should just tell us all of our options, because you're right, there are different ways to make appointments. And I think, I just think we all have to be aware of all of those. But I think what the motion should be then is that we declare the seat, as Councillor Pierce said, open, and then direct staff to bring a report talking about bylaws or by-elections and appointments and different pieces of appointments, how they can come about. She'll get the end costs.
And the other committee spots.
And the committee replacements, yeah. I think, can you work something out on that? You got the wording right? We could do the committee replacements tonight if you want to. Do you want to? Councillor Kyle?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess my question would be for any of these four in particular that have been noted, if we didn't appoint tonight, is there meetings that could be missed or quorum that potentially couldn't be met for those? Because that would probably be indicative of whether we should do that tonight or whether that could wait till the next.
I don't think quorum would be affected, because it's, after we declare the seat vacant, she wouldn't be in the numbers of the membership of the committees. So quorum numbers would change, I would think. I'll defer to staff.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, for the Social Services Committee, it changes the balance from 6-6 to 6-5.
It does?
Whether it makes a practical difference or not, I don't know, but we lose our ability to.
Okay, then we should make the appointments tonight then. It is important, and I thought maybe because the seat was vacant, then the numbers would all re-skew themselves, but they don't, eh? Okay, so then, Councillor Kyle, do you want to make a motion that we fill the seats tonight?
Yeah, I can. I think it's kind of part of that original motion.
Yeah.
Well, sort of. Yeah.
Maybe we could just make it all one motion. So the first part is that the County of Brant Council declare the office Ward 5 councillor formerly held by Christine Garneau to be vacant, and that council directs staff to bring a report to admin and operations to understand the options of the appointment process or a by-election process to fill the vacant council position. And then this is the part where we can say, and that the following appointments be made.
Yep.
Okay, we have that motion on the floor. Councillor Pierce?
Yep.
And seconded by Councillor Kyle. We'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Well,
We'll have to, we can vote on this, and then we'll do the appointments. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, and now we can list the committees that are going to be absent and fill them. Okay, Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd propose we appoint you for the Brantford Airport.
I accept.
For a seconder.
I'm just taking a seconder. Councillor Oakley. Anyone else? Is there any other nominations? Councillor Miller?
I know Councillor Coleman used to be on it, and I don't know what your schedule's like, but I know it's heavy, so that's just another option there.
I was on it too, and I would like to be on it again. I've spoken to Councillor Coleman about it.
Okay.
Anything else? All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, next, what else does she? Councillor Pierce?
Mr. Mayor, just a question. Do we still need somebody for Biggers Lane?
Oh, Councillor Miller?
I would say not right away. We
think
probably
so.
won't meet for a few months.
Oh.
I think social services and the municipal drains is more important, yeah.
Social services and nominations for social services? Councillor House?
I nominate Councillor Kyle.
Councillor Kyle? Yeah. Seeking a seconder? Councillor Oakley? Any other nominations? No? All those in favor? Welcome to social services. Next.
That's it?
No, there's one more, the drains.
Oh, yeah.
Councillor Miller?
I don't know if he's willing to accept, but I will nominate Councillor Chambers for that.
Yeah.
He does know his drains.
You know your drains.
Drains.
The appeal committee. The tribunal.
Code of revision.
Court of revision, yeah.
You accept it? Seeking a seconder?
There's going to be too many.
Pardon? Yeah, you're okay. Seeking a seconder? Councillor Pierce? Anyone else? All those in favor? Councillor Chambers? Thank you. That's it. We're gonna vote on all three appointments together, just for the clerk. All those in favor to ratify? Opposed? Carried. Takes us to number 11.1, Drinks Fest, request for letter municipal significance. Councillor Oakley, you're gonna put that on the floor?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor,
I need a seconder first. To get it on the floor. Councillor Kyle, okay.
With council's indulgence, I'd like to separate the first action clause that the County of Brant grant Parish Drinks Fest a letter to designate the event as municipally significant as requested for the 2026 event, separated from the rest of the motion, which I can read out in its entirety.
Okay.
All right. Whereas Parish Drinks Fest is an event that the County of Brant has designated municipally significant events for 6 years, and whereas events like Parish Drinks Fest enhance the cultural landscape of our community, meeting objectives set out in the County of Brant Arts, Culture, and Heritage Master Plan, and whereas out of the 4,200 attendees for the event in 2025, over 1,950 residents were residents of the County of Brant, comprising 5% of the total population of the county, signaling its importance to the community. And whereas the County of Brant has a responsibility to strategically and responsibly balance and find compromise within the needs and wants of different community members in the County of Brant. And whereas recognizing the proximity of current and past venues of the aforementioned event does lie within the residential area, which is precedented by other venues within the county and throughout Ontario. And whereas the future Gurney Sports Park, 273 Pottruff Road, has a potential to become an ideal location for medium to large music events, such that it balances these differing priorities as well within the medium term, 3 years as prescribed in the capital forecast. Therefore, be it resolved that the County of Brant grant Parish Drinks Fest a letter to designate the event as municipally significant as requested for the 2026 event, and that the Council of the County of Brant in principle support Parish Drinks Fest to host their event at Two River Stadium, 4 Elm Street, Sillaps, provided the event organizers fulfill all other processes, requirements of the County of Brant for an event until such time as the future Gurney Sports Park 273 Pottruff Road is completed, at which time future events would be suggested to be hosted at a more appropriate location, and the Community Services Department collaborates with event providers like Noisemaker to ensure that future Gurney Sports Park 273 Pottruff Road is well suited to medium to large music events like the Parish Drinks Fest. And I can speak to it.
You've got more?
Oh, no. Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So first to address separating the clauses, I think in talking with both staff and the person who authored the letter, I think the primary goal of the individual and the organization is to get the letter to designate the event, and the rest is sort of my own direction that I think would be helpful, so separating those two things out. To speak to the larger in principle support, recognizing that these types of events are expensive to run, have a long planning period, such as the email that Councillor Pierce noted earlier, acknowledging that the event would be potentially coming in the future and with a suggested location. I think it's appropriate that we acknowledge residents who have been concerned while also acknowledging the many, many residents who enjoyed the event by putting a timeline on it, the expectation for it to be in, we'll say a less than ideal location, though, I'm still making the argument that it does work in the short term. And in talking with our Community Services Department, the future sports park would be an ideal location for events such as these. We've also had similar complaints with other events. Most notably, one that I would think of off the top of my head would be Afro-Cara Brant Festival, which, again, many residents enjoy, but is similarly close to a residential area, and perhaps, setting up that park to be a future location for these types of events, I think would be appropriate. So that's sort of what I'm gearing for here.
Mr. Pierce?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, sure, I'll support separating them, but the second clause where it states in there that the County of Brant, in principle, support Paris Drink Fest to host their event at Two River Stadium, and then it goes on to say future events be suggested to be hosted. So in essence, we're not really saying 100% that that's where it's going to be. We're just supporting it in principle. So I'm not sure that really gets them what they're looking for. I could be wrong, but it just seems very open-ended. It's not really a final, yes, we do support it at that location. All we're suggesting is we support it in principle.
Councillor Oakley?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to address Councilor Pierce on that. The language there for in principle, I believe, I think we would all agree that it would be inappropriate for us at this moment via a resolution to bypass our other processes like the special event application process, noise bylaw exemption, so on and so forth. I think what I'm suggesting here, and I think what event organizers would like to see from us in this regards, is support from the council that it is appropriate at this location, provided the other requirements can be met. So we're not waiving those requirements, which I think if we just said it can go here, I think that's what that would accomplish. This, I think, is an indication from the political body that we're willing to support it in principle, that it meets the other requirements.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor Bell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 6th whereas paragraph, it says, whereas the future Gurney Sports Park has the potential to become an ideal location for medium to large music events. I have no problem with music events. I think this is not just a music event. This is a drinking event. By definition, it is a drink fest. And I think if it was just related to a music event, I would not have a problem, but it is not. And I object in principle, as I said earlier, to the idea of municipally owned properties being used for activities which are predominantly in conflict with public health guidelines.
Any other comments before we call the vote? You have a seconder, don't you? Councillor Kyle?
Not the moment, and just highlighting that I'd like the first clause voted on separately from the latter two.
Whereas the events like Drinks Fest?
The County of Brant grant the Paris Drinks Fest a letter designating the event as municipally insignificant as requested in the letter.
Okay.
That's baked in.
That's not within the request.
Okay, so do you want to call the vote? We're going to vote on the first one, the first paragraph first. Councillor House, what?
Quick question on that, through you. So as we discussed earlier when Tim spoke, to support the municipal significant part, that by definition is attached to SILAPS for 2026.
Right.
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page on that. It's because we're not generally designating it a municipally significant event. We're designating it a significant event at SIL apps. It's baked together on this, it's my understanding.
Councillor McAlpine?
Okay, just to throw things out a little bit.
Just a what?
Well, okay, so we're not voting on this as ongoing significant event. It's just a significant event for this year. But the whole concept of a significant event is to approve the noise bylaws, that we're accepting all that.
No, it has nothing to do with that, I don't think. Aren't we just voting on the fact that whether we support it? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that.
The way I understand it is the organization needs a letter of support in order to obtain their special occasions permit. And that I don't have a problem with. And I think that is what Councillor Oakley is pulled from his resolution to be voted on separately.
Right.
So to declare it a significant event in order to obtain their special occasions permit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right. Okay.
Okay.
Everyone's clear? All those in favor? Councillor Kyle seconded. All those opposed? Councillor House is opposed. Okay. Now, what do we have to vote on now? One more. I'm not sure why we needed to separate it. That's what's confusing me. I don't know why we just didn't vote on it. But anyway. Do you want to read it out? Yeah. We're going to vote on the other two clauses together? Yeah? Okay.
Okay, through your worship, the other two clauses read as follows. That the Council of the County of Brant in principle support Paris Drink Fest to host their event at Two Rivers Stadium, provided the event organizers fulfill all other process requirements of the County of Brant for an event until such time as the future Gurney Sports Park is completed, at which time future events would be suggested to be hosted at the more appropriate location. And the third clause is that the Community Services Department collaborates with event providers like Noisemaker to ensure that the future Gurney Sports Park is well suited to medium to large music events like Paris Drinks Fest.
Get it on the floor. Councillor Miller?
Question on that.
We've got to get it on the floor first. Councillor Oakley and Councillor Kyle. Okay, now Councillor Miller.
Are we talking, it doesn't give a timeline. Are we speaking just for 2026 or 2026 until the Gurney Park is ready?
I think it was for 3 years, wasn't it?
The intent would be until such time as the future park is available, at which point the support for SIL apps would no longer be imprincipally supported. Or supported in
I think
principle.
I heard 3 years somewhere.
3 years is our current.
2.5 hours ago, I think I heard 3 years. Is that right?
3 years is what is prescribed in the capital forecast currently for Gurney Sports Park, noting that as per our budget process, that could be pushed, moved up, moved forward, whatever. So.
Questions? Councillor Pierce? You're okay? All those in favor? Opposed? No, it passed. It passed. All those in favor? Opposed? It's 4. Oh, you got to put your hands way up in the air so I can see them. That's right. It dies in a tie. There you go. Okay, that was painful. Okay, so we're going on to number 11.2. Need to get it on the floor. This is the request from the airport. All those want to get it on the floor, Councillor Miller? And
We'll move it, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry?
I will move, yeah.
Yes, seconder, Councillor Coleman. Conversation, Councillor Oakley.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So I hate to do this late, but I am going to request we separate the clauses because I think we owe the city a response. So we need to receive it as information and we need to send them a letter back. I do not support the middle clause of funding their request.
Okay, I think it's the right thing to do to separate it. I do think that we need to reply to the city. Call the vote. All those in favor on replying back to the city that we received this? Yeah. Do you want more conversation before we vote?
Where are we at?
Okay, Councillor Bell.
There are four clauses, A, B, C, D. Are we voting on A?
I thought we were separating it into three. We were going to. Councillor Oakley, do you want to?
Currently trying to find I believe it was 3 on our admin and ops last week.
It's A, B, C, and if we approve D.
D.
Sure. I'm
Sure what?
I am looking not to support the amount of funds, but we can let them, however that manifests, I'm fine to do it.
You've got to say it. You have to
I will
say it.
separate all the clauses.
Heather?
I'm sorry.
I believe
Just
we're punched
looking
from-
at the recommendations from the city, we can receive theirs as information and then deal with item D, but B and C are direction for their staff to send this to us, so we shouldn't be discussing or voting on those.
Okay, so what, okay, Councillor Miller?
Yeah, I think what we're doing is we're discussing whether we wish to spend 241, and I don't see a resolution or anything before us. I see what the city has requested, and that's why I was wondering what you're separating. And I don't think you can separate city,
Councillor Oakley.
city resolutions. But I just want to say, and I thank staff for separating this, because this was not clear at the admin and ops meeting. And what they're asking for is, all the money they're asking for is for safety-related items. Just keep that in mind. The airport is a very important infrastructure in our community. It's the only one in our community. And it does serve us, and it serves us well. So I don't want to say no to this. I don't know if we have the funds for this, but I would certainly refer it to budget, given the importance of it.
Councillor Kyle?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you to staff. Just a question. So reading through this report, it seems to me they're asking for a 50-50 cost share on this. So I'm just wondering how that aligns, like if I think of social services and some of our other cost sharing arrangements with the city, it's more based on population percentage, I believe. So I'm just wondering what the rationale would be behind a 50-50 split on the airport when the rest of our arrangements with them seem to be a different calculation.
Allison?
Through your worship to Councillor Kyle, I can't speak to the rationale that brought this forward from the committee, but you're correct. Typically, our services are split, that we do split on a population basis, but they're also governed by an agreement, so it's a little bit different here as well.
Councillor Bell?
Yeah, I think Councillor Miller was quite correct to point out that this is a report from the city, but we do need to make it clear to them that we do not support spending $241,800, if that's the collective view. And I think we need to have a sense of, is that the collective view of this council? I don't know what mechanism we have to get that on the table.
Councillor Chambers?
I believe that's a discussion for another day when we talk about budget. The matter before us now is just to receive the information, receive the letter. That's the resolution, to receive the communication.
I think that's what Councillor Oakley was trying to do, is just receive it today and talk about it another day when we know more about it. Councillor Miller?
So I'll go back to my earlier motion, is to receive and to refer it to budget.
I can't support referring it to budget, but I can support separating it and voting it so that we can, just receive it. I'm not sure why we would send it to budget when we haven't talked about whether we want to spend the money or not. We haven't talked about money at all.
That's why it's referred to budget, so we could talk about the money.
No, but when it goes to budget, that sort of implies that we're going to do something with money at budget. And we're not going to give them nothing once it goes to budget, I wouldn't think, so. It's up to you. You have to make the motions. We'll just vote on whatever you think. What is the motion? And who's making it? Just to receive it. Who's making it to receive it? Or Councillor Bell? Looking for a seconder. Councillor Oakley? Councillor Miller, do you have something to say out loud?
Yeah, I thought we would ask if I could get a seconder for my motion to receive and refer to budget.
All right. If you like, were you first? I thought Councillor Oakley was before you, but,
Oh, okay, fair enough.
so
fair
he
enough.
has to fail first, and then you can do what you like.
And then I could amend it.
Yeah. So it's on the floor to receive it as information. It has a seconder in Councillor Bell. All those in favor? Opposed?
It's gonna die.
If it dies, it dies. 11.2. Cleaver Road Bridge, here we go. Just when you thought you'd had enough. I needed to get somebody to put it on the floor, Councillor Howes and Councillor Coleman. Conversation, concerns, comments? No? So the motion is just to receive as information. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. City of St. Catharines resolution, get it on the floor. Councillor Oakley, Councillor Pierce. Comments, concerns? Councillor Oakley?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I wish to move the resolution here that was suggested by the City of St. Catharines with the requisite changes for the County of Brant, and then I can speak to it if I get a seconder.
Seeking a seconder. Councillor Kyle.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so as we've seen on our agenda, there's a number of other municipalities that have also passed this resolution. I think right now, and I referenced this last week when we had our meeting involving Cleaver Road Bridge, and we had a delegation who was booed by the audience. I think there's a lot of difficulties in public engagement right now and getting folks involved in elected office and getting engaged in politics. And so I think it's important that we endorse this resolution here. You know, I can speak from my own experience running and recognizing that when Councillor Howes and I were running in 2022, we had several candidates who were also running with us, who are people of color, and I know, talking to people at the door, talking to them, that they received a lot of bigoted comments, hate, and I think that's something that we as a municipality have an obligation to call out and not support in any way in our community, either by direct action or inaction. So I think we should pass this resolution to support folks who receive harassment and call that out.
Any other comments? Councillor Chambers?
Could I just ask the clarification? Is this where the original resolution began? Is this the original, is St. Catharines the original place, or the place where this originated? Because in the consent items, there's a whole Springwater, Pickering, Aurora, like, why is this in communications not in the consent items? And
Through your worship, I'm not sure where where it started, but this actually came to a council meeting or a meeting 2 meetings ago. And Councillor Oakley had it deferred to admin and ops, and it was again deferred to this meeting, and we were asked to place it under communications.
Okay. Councillor Chambers?
so I think Councillor Oakley is asking that Brant County pass the resolution. My question is, are then we going to circulate it to everybody that is suggested here? Or to add to the list of the other 20 or so that we've gotten, or is it just
St. Catharines. I
Just
don't think
St.
it's just St.
just St. Catherine?
I don't think it's just St. Catharines, is it, Councillor Oak?
Through Mr. Mayor, it's the same resolution, but instead of further resolved that the City of St. Catharines Council calls, it would be the County of Brant calls, etc. Oh, jeez. So yes, the intention is to send the copy of resolution like every.
Allison?
Through your worship to council, I understand it does say, and from what I understand of the resolution, that it was the Halton Elect Respect group that originally came up with this motion that's been adopted by a number of municipalities.
Councillor Chambers?
And we're treating St. Catharines a little bit different than all the rest of the ones that circulated us that passed the resolution that originated in Hamilton, or Halton.
Councillor Oakley has his hand up.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Chambers. I pulled this, this letter of communication out from a meeting two months ago because it was a very long meeting. I was hoping this would end up at a meeting that wasn't as long. That isn't how it worked out. I obviously couldn't anticipate when I referred on this resolution that we'd get other letters. It's not to single out the City of St. Catharines. It's just to suggest that we move this resolution. And that was my intent last week, was that by acknowledging at admin and ops that it would function as a notice of motion, which it seemingly didn't function as that, even though that was my intent. So it's ended up as communications.
So we're not going to have to circulate it to everybody that they say to circulate it to.
Oh, that is my intent.
It's on the floor, it's seconder. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? To tie. Wow. Yeah. Okay, 12.1 is a proclamation request for Black History Month. Can I get it on the floor? Councillor Howes, Councillor Oakley. Any comments, concerns, questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Other business, I didn't ask if there were any. Is there any? Councillor Howes, you're going to take us in camera?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Coleman that the County of Brant Council convene in camera to discuss S2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, administration and operations committee. In camera report, October 21st, 2025.
All those in favor? Opposed? We're going to go in camera. Yeah, we're back in open session. Number 16 on the agenda is the bylaws. Who has the bylaws? Councillor Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to add some whereas clauses just for Councillor Coleman. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McAlpine that bylaws number 105-25 to 112-25 be read a first time.
All those in favor of the first reading of the bylaws? Could you do it again for me, Councillor Oakley?
Absolutely. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McAlpine that bylaws number 105-25 to 112-25 be read a second time and all preambles and clauses be adopted.
Are there any questions to the second reading of the bylaws? Seeing none, all those in favor of the second reading of the bylaws? If you could do it one more time, Councillor Oakley.
Absolutely. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McAlpine that bylaws number 105-25 to 112-25 be read a third time, passed, signed, and executed.
All those in favor of the third reading of the bylaws? Opposed? Carried. That takes us to number 16 on the agenda, which is the adjournment of this meeting. We'll meet again on November the 4th at 6 o'clock. All those